Oh, boys, victory is sweet. We are the World Test Champions, and by we, I mean Australia. You know, we as part of the
collective we.
The collective we, yes, part of the team, 3 important members. It seems India can't win outside of India in red ball cricket on decks that they don't get to prepare. And leading into the Ashes week, does this game mean a lot to the boys, or is it all about the ensuing series? We'll be talking all things Test cricket. Plus, State of Origin 2 is around the corner. The Queenslanders have named their team. We've got to wait till Tuesday for the Blues. And a lot of injuries will be the talking point there. Who comes in to replace Cleary and the likes? AFL Round 13, the big freeze, 85,000 odd in there at the MCG, plus Buddies, 350th earlier in the weekend. NBA Finals, the Nugs are on the precipice. They're on the precipice, 3-1. They could, within 24 hours, be first-time NBA champions. Soccer, few big transfers, none bigger than Leo Messi heading over, taking his talents to South Beach and go get that cash, taking the Beckham money over the Saudi money, plus Man City win the treble. Next talking point. And the final round, we'll look back at the UFC 289. Amanda Nunes leaves her gloves in the octagon. Is it a goat leaving the octagon?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, end of conversation. PJ and Liv merge. Trumpy, he called it. The orange man. Don't cancel us YouTube for saying that in the first minute. All right, we do have timestamps. You can skip to the sports that you like. Check us out on the socials, etc., etc. We like to start the show by shouting a beer to commend excellent work in the sporting arena. Shauno, I'll chuck it over to you. Who are you shouting this week?
Well, I think it's more a thing. It's an actual team. Let's go with, I want to talk Le Mans. 24-hour race was completed, I believe this morning. That happened over the weekend. And Ferrari wins it. It's their first win of Le Mans in 50 years. They last won it their last one was 1965, so
nearly 60.
But it's their first time competing in the event in 50 years, and they've won it on their first try. They spent the last 2 decades trying to win an F1 championship, well close to that, and failing miserably. But they do it on their first try, winning Le Mans. So it was pretty interesting. Le Mans. We had the American contingent with Garage 56 taking out NASCAR over there. They competed really well and finished 36th overall. We had a lot of famous racers in this, a lot of ex-F1 talent, a lot of best drivers, but also movie stars. Michael Fassbanger, Bender, banger.
Fassbanger.
Well, he had a bit of a banger in this one. Yeah, he had a big crash in the race. But yeah, it was good to see some of the other big motorsports events have a big outing and a big showing outside of the F1. And in a week that F1 takes off before they get another race in the following week, it was good.
He's okay, Michael Fassbender, before
I believe so. Yeah, he came around the corner, gave it too much gas and spun it around and put it in the wall. So wouldn't have been driver's side for him. So I think he'd be largely okay. And these cars are basically bulletproof. So
Magneto, bro. All the
yes, exactly.
I had to double check that. I'm not a big superhero man, as anyone who's listened to the podcast before.
Yes. Yep. And outside of that, NHL, Golden Knights from Vegas take a, what did we say, 3-1 lead with Game 5 in 2 days, I believe. So.
You're feeling generous, shouting a lot of Ferrari, Golden Knights, Fassbender, Magneto.
Well, it was more Le Mans, and I've got to sneak in an NHL reference there. Otherwise, we'll forget about it.
That's it. Just back on Le Mans, it was the 100th anniversary as well. So quite a weekend for Le Mans this weekend.
Yeah, and there's been some bits of ups and downs, of course, with motor racing, especially post COVID, and what events kind of stay. So the biggest and most well known endurance event. To kick off and have such a big weekend was excellent. There's been lots of jokes. Ferrari have now won it. Now, what are Ford going to do? Of course, classically with if you know the movie, you know the history. I thought it was really cool. And had a wet section and all the cars were sliding around, going off into the walls and things like that. Literally like on ice skates, using my hockey reference.
Oh, there you go.
All of them, they're like spinning around, going straight in the walls. Like it got crazy when they just got caught out, slicks in the wet. So yeah, that's me.
Enjoy
good.
the beers. I'm just going to shout a single person. No one's really going to know the name, but it's a good story. Daniel Burton. He is a Canberra lad, super fan of the Raiders. He bought 65 tickets for struggling fans to see Jared Croker's 300th game on Friday night. 65 disappointments, I think, with the performance, but and
Almost a sellout as well. So
I think they got over 20,000 in there. So Raiders fans did turn out, and good to see Toot there play his 300th. We spoke probably about 12 months ago thinking that he would never reach that milestone, and the Raiders, outside of their mediocre performance on Friday night, have been a breath of fresh air this year, that's for sure. So we'll talk his milestone game and the other milestones that occurred through the week. Buddy, texts come to mind in our footy section, which will be after the cricket tonight. But yes, enjoy the beer. Daniel Burton of Canberra for your generosity, shouting 65 punters tickets. Monks?
Very good. Yes, I am shouting Novak Djokovic a beer this week. Probably a little bit more well-known than Daniel Button. And Burton, sorry. Yeah. Burton, Button.
Benjamin Button.
Yeah, better known than both of them. And probably now the GOAT of tennis, you'd say? Yep. So he overtook Nadal and Federer, becoming the only person to have won 23 Grand Slams all time, and being the first man to win the Triple Crown 3 times.
Man,
so
Triple Crown.
Yeah. So obviously over the weekend won the French Open, the men's singles, and now becomes probably the greatest tennis player of all time.
You've got it there. I'm pretty sure we looked at this before. It's been a very, very long time since someone won all 4 as well, and he's on track to do that.
Yeah, well, that's right. So he's won the Oz Open and the French Open with Wimbledon just round the corner. I'm scrolling back. We've looked before. It hasn't happened for donkey's years because Federer never did it in a calendar year, I don't think.
Yeah, because Nadal prevented him from. Yeah. So
has anyone ever done it? That's my question now.
Keep looking. Keep
I'm
scrolling.
going to have to go
Stop.
forever.
Rod Laver.
right there.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Rod Laver did it a few times. It's there too. So Rod Laver,
But we're talking 60s.
1969. We put a man on the moon, allegedly, and Rod Laver allegedly won all 4 Grand Slams. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if the Joker can do it. That'll bring him to 25. He's definitely...
He's in that sweet window where all those guys that had preventing him have retired, and he's kind of still going, and the new talent really hasn't come through yet to push him.
So 30 could be...
on the card.
Yeah, on the cards for the Joker.
How old's Joker?
I feel like he's 34, 35 off the top of the head. 36. 36.
Yeah, there you go.
Just turned 36 and can pay 35.
Yeah, pay that.
Yeah, so sky's the limit there for Novak Djokovic. Iga Swiatek taking out the ladies and speak. She's quite young, so she's probably on track for double digits the way she's going. Mop of the week.
Mop of the week.
So Conor McGregor. They're fucking stuck in mud. They're stuck in mud. The Heat mascot, he's stuck in mud. He was doing some pre-game bit with the Heat mascot who looks like a bird. We're not really sure. I was thinking maybe a chili. I don't know.
A pelican for on the beach.
Yeah, but there already is the pelicans
Seagull?
in the NBA.
True. Maybe it's a seagull.
I don't know what the fuck it is, but
I'll get that one.
whatever it is, it got knocked the fuck out.
Yes.
Conor McGregor, he landed 2 left hooks. The first one sort of glanced. It's a bit, so it wasn't an unprovoked attack.
Yes.
But then he gives him one on the ground, and whoever was in the mascot, can't find any names out there, had to go to the emergency room. I don't know, it was a few stitches, a bit of pain relief, and that was about it, wasn't it?
Yeah. The hype, round had to be taken to ER, made all the headlines, but by all accounts, he was just given some painkillers and sent on his way. But it was just funny. The video, of course, check it out. Very funny. With Conor, of course, he's doing The Ultimate Fighter at the moment with Michael Chandler, so they're doing a bit of promotion and et cetera. So, yeah, it's funny.
Left hook and then left, right, good night on the ground. Bernie is the name of the Heat mascot. We're unsure.
Bernie is the name.
It doesn't say.
Is he a flame?
It's it looks like a bird.
It does look like a bird. I don't think
Maybe
it's
I don't think it's supposed to be a bird. Yeah, maybe it's a flame.
Yeah.
Looks like a bird.
If Wikipedia is to be trusted.
Yeah, but it's so reliable. Bernie is a rough anthropomorphic depiction of a fireball. So there you go. It's not a bird. There you go. Anthropomorphic. Try saying that 10 times fast. They've also spelt it Burnie, so it's also a pretty bogan town on the northern coast of Australia. So shout out to Bernie of northern Tasmanian and Heat mascot fame.
Oh, too good. Apparently he was sued in 1994.
Bernie, he's got priors.
Yeah.
Victim blaming here. Jeez, monks, it's 30 years ago. 30 years ago, Bernie was sued.
I mean, when you see legal problems, you got to read it.
Did you guys see that one of the Chiefs super fans, the guy well known for dressing up in like a wolf outfit, made the most wanted list in America?
Yeah, didn't he like rob a bank or something?
Yeah, yes, he did. And he's been on the run since. So
was he in the Chiefs costume?
No, he's
more
made
up his like own like wolf kind of
super fan. Went to every game.
Yeah.
He said, got on TV a whole bunch, but
so he wasn't the mascot.
no, not the official mascot. No.
I was thinking, what the fuck's Wolves got to do with Chiefs?
Yeah, no idea.
All right, we're off to a good start, boys.
Let's get into the cricket, Jimmy.
Let's, take it away, Jim. Yes, as Afa mentioned at the top of the show, we are the champions of the world in suing guitar solo and dribble. India win the toss at the Oval there. They chose to field.
Wrong.
Yeah, chose wrong. I
think there would be
hindsight is 20/20, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're a bit unlucky looking at the pitch. Like it looked like a green deck. There might have been a bit in it for the bowlers, but
early on there was a little.
Yeah, but after 10 overs, and the new ball, and they knocked the top off the pitch, and it was done, and then it was just flat with a bit of uneven bounce for the rest of the test match.
And that first sort of 10, 15 overs, I suppose it really could have gone the other way, and kudos to the Aussie top order outside of Khawaja for setting it off. Good to see Davey Warner in amongst the runs, 43 of 60. He looked like he was in quite good nick before succumbing to the Lord. Announced that he's going to retire at the end of the year, pending selections. Yeah, that's right. I think he's bought himself a little bit of time, but obviously the big question mark around the Ashes is going to be Warner versus Broad. His average is dismal in England, and me as a David Warner fan and as an Aussie cricket fan would love to see a redemption story and see him make a maiden ton in England. I don't think he's ever done it. So looking forward, hopefully, to rejuvenated Warner with a bit of confidence going into the Ashes. Marnie knocked it around a little bit. I watched the whole first session and then went to bed. It was a school night down under. I don't know, did anyone else stay up later than that?
I think I saw a bit more of that, but largely it was go to bed, wake up and see Steve Smith and in his 90s and Travis Head getting a ton. So
there was, I think, a bit of spring in the step of a lot of Aussies going to work on Thursday. I was off crook on Thursday, but it worked out okay for the NBA, which we'll get to in a second. But lots of memes getting around of people waking up pretty chipper after checking their phone. It's a world that we live in now. People would actually have to go downstairs and get the paper and whatever to find out what's happened. But
a week later.
The messages are talking about the 90s. I'm not talking about the fucking 1870s. Comes off the ship, off the wooden ship. Anyways, we tend to check our phones often, check them during the night if we get up for a piss. But it was nice to see Travie Head on about 120 odd. Ended up with 163 off 174 balls, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Trav ball.
Trav ball. Will we employ Trav ball versus Baz ball next week? That's going to be an interesting thing. I saw a stat over the last 2 years over the World Test Championship. He has the highest strike rate out of anyone that made the certain number of runs to qualify, which is pretty interesting because he scored a bucket load of runs in that time too.
Yep. And I think in the top 5 for that as well, we had 3 Australians. So they've done very, very well.
It's refreshing, isn't it? He always plays his natural game. Doesn't matter what the situation is. 3 for 76. It really could have gone the other way. But his shot selection was beautiful. Doesn't leave it a lot, does he? You talk about the swinging ball there, and in that early stage there was a little bit about it, but he just gets out on the front foot and attacks early on, and made it look pretty easy out there, didn't he?
Yeah, and very challenging for the Indian side, of course. Picking a whole bunch of seamers. and then Jadeja to try and be their spin option. So, the big news was Ashwin missed out, but I think we'll talk about that in a minute. So the Australians, what did they finish up? 469 after the first innings, and that
it could have been more, really.
Yeah.
Like
no tail wag.
No.
Carry was good, but they credit to India. They did a good job in the first innings to clean up the back end of the tail.
How about Smudge's last 9 Test innings in England? 143, 144, 142, 92, 211, 82, 80, 23. And 121. The bloke can bat in England and is in some serious form.
Yeah, I think it was an excellent decision for them to go out and play some county cricket, like him and Manas, to go out there earlier and play some county cricket.
Indeed. Best of the bowlers, Siraj 4 for 108. The quicks bowled, quick maths here, 26, 110 overs maybe, and Jadeja just with the 18. Would it have been much different had Ashwin gotten the rock? Shami was a little expensive.
I don't think
Yadav didn't really look that dangerous. It was mostly looked like Siraj who was the danger.
Yeah, and looking at the pitch and the turn later in the game, there wasn't a huge amount there. Nathan Lyon was good, but
on day 5.
Yeah, on day 5, but it was, maybe that went into the decision to bat early because they, instead of them having to bat on day 5, they knowing they hadn't picked Ashwin, maybe they went that way, but. Don't want to rely on winning the coin toss and picking a field. So
that's right. We are Monday morning quarterbacking it here, but it was a bit of a head scratcher at the time. So that's why I suppose we can look back and think, was it the right decision? India then went out to bat. The Aussies got off to a pretty reasonable start there. I did see this first time in history apparently that no one in the top 4 for India has made 15. Hasn't made more than 15 runs. More than 15 runs.
Wow.
So 15, 13, 14, 14, which not sure if that's Mayo and I just heard it this week, but apparently that is true. Good luck, fine.
Good luck. Confirming that. The Scott Boland ball, I think, was my favourite out of those ones. Yeah, moved about 2 feet to take the pegs.
Definitely done a few of those playing Sunday social cricket on Syntho decks, and it moves about 2 centimetres, and you go, oh mate, I just got a good one. It's jagged back in. Jeez, there was a few. There was 2 in that innings, wasn't there? Just sexy bowling there, really.
Yeah.
What about Ajinkya Rahane?
Well, yeah, he really saved this innings. They were in all sorts at that point, and then he and Jadeja kind of steadied the ship and got some runs, and then the Lord came out really to give them a sniff in this game, get them close to 300 and say, hey, we're still in touch. Yes, we're behind, but we're not too far behind. Instead of being, say, all out for 200, and then they would have been really struggling. So they did their jobs there in the back end to keep them in the game.
Indian middle order giving us problems. Have I heard this story before?
Yeah. Batting to 11, yes.
Yeah. Well, Yadav, Shami, Siraj don't really offer too much, but they definitely that could have been another point as well if Ashwin was in this side a little bit more with the bat. But definitely whenever Jadeja is out there, you worry, and then the Lord obviously can swing the willow. Best of the bowlers in that, Blue Eyes, Pat Cummins, 3 for 83. Everyone got a pole. Nathan Lyon only required for 4 overs in that one.
Mm-hmm. Which probably goes again to the reason why you didn't need Ashwin as much. Because it was definitely looking like a seamer's deck.
Into the Aussie second innings, Khawaja, not a test to remember for him. Davey Warner also undone pretty early. What were we, 2 for 24? So Marnus and Smudge had to steady the ship, and there was probably a point in this innings where you're like, oh, have we got enough?
Yeah.
But then Carey and Stark getting the job down,
Stark
down the order.
I think the Indians will lament the fact that they let Stark get 40 off 57. That was I think that was the nail in the coffin really for them, because it really put it out of reach. It's like it went from maybe the 350 kind of total to 440 and 444 to chase, and you thought, oh, that's too much.
Yep, yeah, it starts going from that. Oh, it would take a lot, but it's happened before. It's impossible. It's only rain that can save them.
Yep.
Into that Indian second innings, a little bit of resistance at the top, and. Oh, did we talk about the Cam Green catch?
No, that's that. That's a Shubman Gill.
Gill. Yes, Shubman Gill. Gill, whose form has been impeccable throughout the IPL.
The Prince, as you will.
The Prince, yes, the heir apparent, gets dismissed and given out on field. Definitely looked out to the naked eye. Then it looked pretty 50-50 for mine.
Yep.
Did you think there was grass involved?
I think the initial contact with the ball is you see it like it hits his hand, and his hand about, I don't know, what would you say, 12 inches off the ground? Like you can see
Not that much.
Yeah, it hits like it. There's no ground involved in the initial contact of ball to hand, and then of course because he's diving down, like as he's catching the ball, it's in his hand and he's pushing it down, and then his hand and the ball contact the ground. But I always see like he had the two fingers wrapped around the ball, like there was no separation. The ball didn't bobble, didn't move anywhere, and yeah, they finally called that. I thought. And I tried finding it. There was it was in England. Don't think it was against Australia. I think it was against India. A game where one of the Indians got given out, and it clearly to me looked like the ball bounced and before it got to the first slipper. And I thought that one was given out, and it was way worse than this one was. I thought this was more likely to catch, and I think the third umpire did a great job, even on TV, going through the process and explaining his decision and what he was looking at. Did the ball move? I can see fingers underneath the ball. I think maybe it would have been slightly different if they'd gone up saying it's not out, like we don't think he's caught it, and which case it would have been the Aussies would have had to challenge.
Yep.
Maybe it might have been a different conversation there, but it's they thought it looked good. He's reviewed all the angles that they had, and it all looked pretty good for mind. I don't think you can really question that. You're going to have plenty of catches that hit the hand, and then there's going to be a frame where ball's in hand and then the ball's also touching ground, but it's the cash has been initiated above that, I think was the core thing for me.
It's hard, isn't it? Those ones when it goes down to frame by frame by frame. Yeah. We see it. We watch a lot of rugby league.
Yeah, I think it's a bit hard done.
Foreign concept to some of our Indian listeners, but it's hard in that frame to frame. I think the Indian listeners who are up in arms about this, saying it all through the comments, need to really look in the mirror, especially and ask yourself,
going after Cam Green calling it a cheat and things like that.
Yeah,
that's just not cool.
Do you think that was the turning point in the Test match? No, I don't think it was. So
he still had 9 more wickets after that.
Yeah, well. I don't know. You're chasing 444. It was a bee's dick in it. For mine, it did look 50-50. I'm glad I didn't have to make those calls. But it was definitely a contentious point. What have you got up there, Monks? 1947, hey?
This is Indian first innings.
There you go. So, fact checker. How the hell did you find that?
I just scrolling through India's lowest totals.
So Monks has brought up 1947, the Indian top 4, Vinu Mankad. Speaking of cheating bastards, he got a golden quacker. And then Chandu Sarway, 12 for 34. Gul Muhammad, naught from 6. And Himu Adhikari, 8 from 35 deliveries. That means that what I said was a blatant lie, and I'd heard it during the week, and that's why
they probably haven't looked.
That's why we have fact checkers.
Back to 1947.
1947. Here you go.
They are old. They are very old.
This one
does it count if it was played during the war?
Hey, what's this guy's name? Farouk Engineer.
There's another one. Jimmy's found heaps
with Sonny Gavaskar and a few of them in there. Yeah, so plenty of times actually that the top 4
I'm quite
hasn't
enjoying
made.
the fact that Old is getting all these guys out.
Yeah, there's a few.
You got 5 for in that one?
What's his name? Chris Old. 5 for 21. Thanks for coming. Yeah. That's more recent with Gavaskar. 1974. There you go. Yeah. So maybe the stat that I saw was years that didn't include 4s and 7s in the last 2, courtesy of ESPN on a Wednesday night featuring LeBron James.
So I guess to finish this game off in that 4th innings, Coley was probably the best of their. Well, he gave them a good chance there. Got 49. Him and Rihani looked like they were, again maybe giving them a sniff. They had a good run rate, but then Scott Boland things. The
barrel, and that probably rolls us into, I think maybe the biggest talking point from this, and pending Hazelwood's fitness for Friday.
Well, I think
has the barrel played himself into the first test?
Yeah, I think they confirmed Hazelwood's going to be okay. He could play in the Ashes, so he's available. But yeah, whether Boland plays himself into this. Jimmy, I'm not sure if you can find the stat of Australian fast bowlers, their records for the World Test Championship. I think from what I saw, it was an average of just over 14 for 20 wickets for Boland, which is crazy. And the others were all at and that includes, of course, his massive game where he did 5 for 7 or whatever it was. But the others were all same sort of wicket numbers, but high in the 20s is an average. And Hazel would have, of course, had the worst average of that because I think he played the least amount of games throughout that.
Wouldn't affect his average though.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's. I think it's more form. Yeah, coming back from injuries is why it affected it, and he took less wickets and then had more of an average.
He's got 33 poles at 14.57 through 8 tests is the Barrels numbers as it stands. Look, it's a 1v1 comparison, isn't it? They're not going to drop the skipper.
No, exactly.
Starkey gives you left arm thunderbolts, which neither of these sticks give you. Neither of these bowlers give you.
Here's the question though, because Cummins and Stark were both probably a bit rusty coming in this. Cummins, of course, bowled no balls left, right, and centre,
including getting wickets on no balls.
Yeah, and then Starkey was a bit wayward as well.
That's Mitch Stark for you.
Yeah, but whether that is a little bit of form issue, do you want to carry that going into the Ashes? I think yes, purely based on what we've talked about. Like he's different, yeah, adds a little bit, and when he's on and starts moving around, and he's starting to cause a lot of issues. So I think Boland's kind of played his way into this kind of match.
It's a hard conversation to for a selector to have with him and say, look, you're actually doing everything that we've asked of you, and plus several feet more. It's him versus Hazelwood for that last spot. The only other world where he plays is they go 4 quicks, and I don't see that happening.
No, I think
because Cam Green gives you that bowling.
Yeah, exactly. Gives you that
option.
Yeah.
So I think it's Boland head v head on head. What am I?
Look at his comedy in this match as well.
2.87.
Yeah, comparable to a spinner and Cam Green who bowled fuck all. So
Boland head to head with Hazelwood there. Jeez, struggled there. Too much Travis head in my mind.
So I think they pick him. Well, my concern out of this game was neither of these teams could move the ball around. Like any swing, like there was bugger all. It was basically a very much a seam game, and what was the pitch giving you a bit of variable bounce and maybe nip off the seam. My concern, of course, is we'll come in and play the first Ashes game, which is next week.
It's Friday.
Friday, yeah, and the Pommies will be moving that ball around a foot, and we'll be like, "What the fuck's going on?" That's their secret weapon at home. So. I was hoping to see maybe a little bit more in the audition match a little bit for Boland here. Maybe he could move it a bit, and whether Starkey could move a bit, but they had none of that, and the Indians couldn't do any of it either. So
I wonder, not that I watched any county cricket over the weekend, out of London in particular. Weather, mate, it
was very hot, so
and sunny, and all the things that we're not used to in England.
Oh
my God, it's 29 degrees. I'm going to have a stroke.
Did you see the Palace guards fainting?
I did see that. I sound like Russell Brand.
Yeah, one of them fainted while they were doing a musical thing, and he's on the ground
and he's trying to play. I did see that.
And then he gets up, and there's another one getting stretched out in the background.
Heat stroke.
30 degrees, bro, and they're all dying. Yes.
So that's my counter.
Yeah, it could be a dry heat.
Was it just the unusual weather, lack of moisture in the air, no cloud cover, etc., etc.
Yeah. Well, that would be my one concern going into Friday is the Aussies show up there and then they're like, holy fuck, what the hell's going on?
Wonder. It's still 5 days out, but the weather prediction is going to start to be interesting.
Jimmy can chase that for
We're
us.
in Birmingham, 5 days out.
So if we finish on this test match, Australia win their 9th ICC trophy, 4 ahead of everyone else.
How many has India got? Brah.
I think they got 5 from memory. So
I think it is 5. Maybe it's 4.
yeah, but it's nothing in the last 5 or 6 years. So for whether
again windows, in
exactly.
this coaly window, did they play unders? Yeah, I would say so in terms of
considering
trophies.
they've made the last 2 and lost them convincingly.
Yeah, and white ball the same. Been perennial underachievers when it comes to white ball cricket over the last few years as well. So that's something that they might look back to. My feeling is, given the IPL that we watch and all these young talent coming through, they've got nothing to worry about in terms of windows closing.
Yeah, they just got to pick the right formula, the right 11 for the right match, and then they'll be pretty dominant. But either way, they've been whinge, complaining about everything. Not enough prep, etc.
That was an interesting whinge. Like okay, well, if this means more to you than the IPL, don't play the last 3 games of the IPL and go prepare for it.
Exactly. Yeah. So the
whinging about the scheduling.
Yeah. There's a few quotes about complaining about no prep, etc. leading this. But then on the flip side of that, none of the Australians played any Test cricket since the start of the year. Leading that, they were also playing IPL, and only a couple of them came over early to play county cricket. So
and that they're all more red ball specialists.
Yeah. Yes.
Labuschagne, Khawaja, Smith.
Olin,
yeah, exactly. That were all over there. And given the fact that the Aussie media has really gotten stuck into our players for not preparing well for, say, the Indian series in India, that used to be you'd go over and play a lot of tour games and get used to the conditions. They've gone and done that, and they looked far better prepared than the Indians did in this one. So I'm not sure. And again, is this more just sort of media beat up and articles for the sake of writing articles? I don't know if, Rohit Sharma himself would be whinging about lack of preparation time and scheduling.
I feel like the quote was from him, that they were underprepared. So,
well, if that's the case, then cry me a fucking river, Rohit. Cry me a Genjis.
Yeah.
Because that's look. Yeah. The game was scheduled when it was scheduled. They still when did the IPL finish? 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, well, we knew this was happening 2 years ago. So that's how long this tournament's been going on.
It's 2 weeks, I think, since the IPL. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. And what was my final point going to be?
Over eights.
Oh, was it? Well, no, we'll get to that. I was going to say a neutral venue. Australia was just better.
Interesting that it seems like, because the next one in 2 years is going to be in England as well. It's going to be Lords.
England aren't going to make it, so it's always going to be neutral.
It's always going to be India versus whoever else
yes.
competed the best in those 2 years.
Yeah.
Because, India ain't losing in India for a while from what we've seen recently.
And
Monk's got the story there. We need 20 to 25 days to prepare for a game like this, says Rohit Sharma post losing.
And he also
that
said...
should be the last bit of that headline.
Yeah, and he also said it should be a 3-match series.
I did say that as well, yeah.
As well, and, Cummins was like, lots of sports play a single final. He referenced, of course, NRL and AFL, which no one internationally would know about, but for us, we definitely know that.
It's also Test cricket, and there's 5 days.
Yes.
You've got 5 days to go. It's not like it's a 100-metre sprint, It's Test cricket.
What happens if it was a draw, though? Drawn test?
They joint winners.
Joint winners.
Yeah, okay.
Which is dangerous in England, That's all the cloud seeding to, to keep the clouds away. That's why it's so hot.
But also they have a reserve day, so they would have played a 6 day.
I did say that. If they lost a day to weather.
So it's actually pretty well set up to play there in England. So you can be prepared for it.
Yeah.
Final point there, of course, there was the slow over rate. In total, across the whole match, they lost 44 overs over their phase. Yeah, well, what's that? That's like 1.5 sessions. So
yep. Yeah.
So it's a lot of overs. So the entire of the Indian team lost their match fee, so they played for free. As we mentioned before, Shubman Gill, his tweet in relation to his getting out from Cairn Green, he got fined for that, so he'll actually have to pay to have played that game.
Which was interesting to me. Yeah. His tweet was emojis, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was like magnifying glasses and the face palm. So, but I think it was like, calling into question an umpire's decision. was the reason.
That's play on for me. You can't get fined for emojis.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's cricket, bro.
Bringing the game into
Eggplant,
disrepute.
Yeah. So they got fined, and then I didn't think it was only a couple from the Aussies got fined for slow overrights, but I don't remember the names off the top of my head.
That's all right. It was
It's probably
interestingly slow, and maybe it speaks volumes to India aren't that used to playing 4 quicks ever.
Mm-hmm.
So
Playing a game of
yes,
seam.
some of that probably comes down to that. Got that Cam Green screenshot there from Shubman Gill. Yep. That screenshot, it does look like there's a bit of grass involved, I must say.
Yeah. But I think there's a finger that's behind the ball that you can't see. Picture. So
anyways, seems like a lot more whinging to me.
Mm-hmm.
After all that we've done on this podcast for waving the Shubman Gill flag.
Yes. Australia got docked 80% of their match fees.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think they'll be happy with the win.
You take it.
You take it, and you only get paid 20%, but I think you take it.
World Test Championship.
Test.
Are we finally, are we a fan of the setup?
I think so. It gives. I think it was needed to give meaning to Test cricket, more so than just one-off series. Like, I guess Ashes is a big thing, but it's only for England and Australia. Mm-hmm. And each probably the big four, they have a tournament that means something between one other arch rival. But for all the other ones, and then to kind of make Test cricket mean more across the board, I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I think that's the hammer on the nail there. When we play Sri Lanka in a 2-game series, to me, I'm kind of like, but then it's like, you have to win this to play in the World Test Championship.
Exactly, and if it's in Sri Lanka,
I kind of get it. Again, the purists hate it. The purists hate what's happening with cricket and the money that comes through T20 and the direction that it's going. But I think the ICC did something to try to sort of alleviate some of that. And for mine, I quite liked it. I liked a few years ago seeing New Zealand go out there and win the whole thing. It's always good, seeing a country of 5 million people go out there and be world champions at something other than rugby. And it gives a bit of meaning. I think the format needs still a little bit of tinkering.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, given that the teams don't play the same amount of games, you don't play everyone in the 2-year period either. That probably needs to improve, but then that also means we're trying to add meaning to these other sort of lower nations. That means if we did play everyone, Australia would have to play Bangladesh more often in Test cricket. We would have to have away series to the West Indies more often.
Yeah, it gives more caveat for the, again, like probably the big 4, maybe 5 if you throw, well, 5 and 6 if you throw. Depends how you want to define. I guess, well, let's say there's 3, Australia, India and England, then South Africa, New Zealand and Pakistan make up Tier 2.
I think that's a perfect way to tier it. So there's 9 in there. Tier 1 is Australia, India, England. Tier 2 is South Africa, New Zealand, Pakistan. And Tier 3 is Sri Lanka, West Indies, Bangladesh.
Yeah. But it gives, I guess, more meaning for those guys to go visit and then also to have people come and play series at home. Like it gives more meaning for those series than just we'll go to Sri Lanka, play a 2-game series, and it's just tune up before we go play, say, in India. So, subcontinent comparable kind of thing. But it means things like, we've got to go to Sri Lanka and win, and then go to beat India so we can then make the World Test champion.
It's hard, isn't it, as well? Because when it's actually hard for us to tour Sri Lanka and win. It's very hard for us, even at home, to beat South Africa. So I was just in my head, I'm like, what if you had this tiered system where you only play Tier 3 once, one test, one off, but then you come up to this next tier. I'm like, well, we can't beat Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka. So we struggled to, at least. So, and South Africa is always, other than the last series, doesn't really matter where it is. It always seems to be, a tough one to win. I think it's also just a function of cricket. Like it's so hard with the small amount of nations that play it. Obviously, the decay of West Indian cricket plays into it.
I think it just gives meaning. I think the meaning is the main thing because, for us as Australian fans, we care about Australia playing Test cricket.
Everyone cares about the Ashes. Everyone wants to beat India.
Yeah, but then I think it's like, are India or England going to make the World Test Championship final? So you tune in to watch India and England play in India.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
So again, it's for those that aren't following some of the other Test matches that are happening, it gives more meaning. Because I think it was Sri Lanka and New Zealand.
It ended up being a really important Test match.
Yes, for us. So so that also plays into it. More meaning to Test cricket, I think, is what's useful out of this. Yeah, they could probably tweak it and work out the percentages and who maybe play each other a bit more semi-regularly would be nice. But overall, for the second time this concept's been run, it's not too bad.
It is very interesting, isn't it? So it's all percentage based. So Monks has got the table up there. So we played 19. India played 18 tests. England played 22 in the window, whereas Bangladesh played 12. So. Yeah, I'm just not sure if is that unfair on Bangladesh. I don't know. Obviously, there's going to be teething that's involved, but the counter side is, do you want to play more tests against Bangladesh? And as a viewer, I'd probably say no.
Yeah.
But for Bangladesh cricket, how do they improve if you're not playing the best teams?
And to their credit, are going in the right direction. And I think we'll probably in this next lot we'll finish above the West Indies if form's anything to go off. We could talk about this for hours. Give us your thoughts. What does it mean to you? Have you liked the first 4 years of the World Test Championship? If we've got any Indian listeners, get at us. Are you disappointed? Are you disappointed with India's showing, losing the last 2 World Test Championship finals, or are you not too concerned? Is it nice to see us Aussies run our mouths after one little win on the neutral?
It'll be good for them to practice crying those tears when they lose, eventually choke in the World Cup coming up. So
them's fighting words, Bart. Them's fighting words. England versus Australia at Birmingham. Will be 8 o'clock our time Friday night. Did I see you had some weather up there for Birmingham? It looked nice, didn't it?
I did.
24 and sunny?
Yes. Ooh, where's it gone?
If it continues the current form,
26.
Slightly cloudy.
Oh, the heat wave's back, isn't it?
Is.
Russell Brad's back.
One day is raining, so we'll see how it goes.
But
to your point on the World Test Championship, I'm just looking at the fixture for the start of the next round of tests. Australia is playing in every single match through the end of this year into next year.
Yeah, so Pakistan, West Indies will be the start.
So obviously Australia's always going to be higher up. We'll have a better chance
England
of getting a higher
plays the most
percentage
of everyone. So.
because they're playing just
but we also
more
have
tests, I guess.
Yeah, but it's percentage, so we also have a chance of getting a lower percentage.
True.
Yeah, if we drop a couple of games, like they get
Which
stolen.
isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe against Pakistan.
West Indies
at
home.
At home. West Indies at home, no. Pakistan.
Did we just fucking pants the bejeebus out of them?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why they're coming back. Anyways, we could talk about it for hours. We don't have that much time, unfortunately. Let us know in the comments.
Moving on.
Yeah, football.
Just a brief wrap-up of round 15. Probably State of Origin teams will be the bigger talking point. Titans-Tigers caught that on a Thursday night. The Tigers, unfortunate with their injuries. Appy, broken jaw.
That was the big story.
Yeah, what were your thoughts around that? He just got a fine, didn't he? There was no suspension involved.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting because they had Brad Fittler, of course, on commentary, and he was very scathing on his thoughts on it. But you watch the vision, it's his ball-carrying hand, and he hits him with the back of his hand / wrist. I think it's just unfortunate that Appy tried to tackle, a 110-kilo forward with his face.
Big man on little man kind of stuff. I think,
one of the shortest players on the field up against one of the tallest players.
We saw how good he is as a tackler in recent Origin games, and I just think he got this one wrong and he got his head in the wrong spot. And, Big Tino with the force that he can output, connected with his jaw and it broke it. It wasn't as bad as, say, some of... I think Hardgraves threw an elbow in that other game. So I think that's, elbows and leading knees a lot more dangerous than what Tino did there.
And to add to the Tigers' woes, they lost this game, by the way. Luke Brooks, he got sniped, hamstring, probably looking at 5 to 6 weeks. And then the chat about him leaving at the end of the year, leaving the club, that hasn't gone away.
I think he's confirmed that he's not taking up his option, so his contract's done at the end of the year.
So where do we see him ending up?
Great question. It's how many of the big name coaches think they can fix him?
He hasn't been bad the last month. Like when they've been winning, if anyone's watched Tigers games and watched Luke Brooks in those games, hasn't been any problem with the way that he's played.
Yeah, I feel bad for him. I think when he came out as a young fella, he was anointed as the next Andrew Johns.
Too much pressure.
Yeah, and never really lived up to that hype, and that's what everyone kind of thinks that he's like a bust, like he failed. But I think he's a good, solid player. He'd probably play for St. George next year.
Well, a lot of the halfback chat might revolve around Ben Hunt and whether or not he stays. Yeah. Dragon's got to win. We'll talk about that in just a second. But again, probably the best Dragon on the field. So much of what they do revolves around him at the moment. And as a Dragons fan, a one-eyed fan, that one eye will be full of tears.
Yeah.
Tear, if it's one eye, don't know. Yeah, no, still multiple tears.
Yeah,
if Hunt decides to go, but yeah, if Hunt goes, then that probably opens the door for a guy like Luke Brooks. If Hunt stays and there aren't any other big sort of moves, it could be the Super League.
Could be. I think there's a lot of chat that there's a. Jimmy might There's a lot of chat of NRL teams, but. They follow your Ben Hunt conversation to finish it off. Canterbury's interested. Now it's look like the Tigers could be interested. There's thoughts of going back to Queensland. There's also, if he goes to Canterbury, Kyle Flanagan's been playing well. If the Dragons sign his dad, maybe that could be a switch. But anyway, the halfback dominoes. Big if. The halfback dominoes, I think we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, are now starting to tumble over, and then I think we'll get a lot of moves at that position as they kind of all shuffle around the league.
Yeah.
What do you got, Jimmy?
Google, the all-knowing Google, when you type in Luke Brooks. Hello.
Is that me? Yeah. Oh!
Yeah.
I'm glad that's what was playing.
Close the other tabs.
That's it. We know what you listen to at home.
Luke Brooks.
All-knowing Google autofills Luke Brooks Raiders.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's what I've got here as well. So with Whiten going.
Woody plays 6.
Yeah, who plays 6? Ken Brooks plays 6. Could Fogarty play 6? That's interesting. Interesting chat there.
Yeah, I think there would be suitors for him, especially some of those more senior coaches that think, hey, come to us, you're fixable, that kind of conversation. So
it does happen.
Yeah,
think about Chad Townsend going to the Cowboys, and we were like, he's past it. And then they had amazing run last year.
I did see Craig Bellamy said it was like, I took Jerome Hughes, turned him in an international. What do you think I'll do with Luke Brooks?
Yeah.
So
I mean, but
prior
to 5 years ago, who knew really that much about Jerome Hughes?
Yeah, well, when Cooper Cronk went there, same thing. Like, there are senior coaches that can take these guys and turn them around. You just look at what Wayne's done to the Finns. There's guys there that have talent of bringing out the best in the talent that they've got. So yeah,
I didn't know heaps of the Jerome Hughes backstory. He played one game in 2013 NRL game for the Titans, and then had 2 years in the absolute wilderness playing for Townsville Blackhawks. Then one for the Cowboys, and then, like you say, Bellamy turned him into a bona fide superstar.
Yep, right when Cooper Cronk was thinking of moving to the Roosters.
I feel sort of reiterating your point. I feel for Luke Brooks that he has been sort of a media sort of scapegoat for ages and hasn't been in the best system. So it will be interesting to see where he does end up.
Yeah, and there's more reports that Tim Sheen's with their recruitment kind of faltering and not really hitting what they wanted to do. He's either going to be out or wants out. So there's unrest at the head coaching position as well at the Tigers. So.
Dragons fan here just going. Please, no spoon. No spoon for us.
Saving our season.
All right, Croker's 300th Friday night. Amazing turnout. It's pretty emotional scenes. You know, talking about the tears coming out of the one eye. Geez, it was pretty emotional stuff, even for non-Raiders fans watching him go out there. You know, the kids involved. You know, all the injuries over the last few years. Not many get to 300 games, so good to see him do it. Now, outside of all that, pretty lackluster performance from the Raiders.
Terrible second half.
Which sort of led me to ask you boys in the group text on Saturday to where do we see the Warriors? Are they? Some people saying contenders. That might be a bit of a stretch.
Pushing it a little bit.
How many games for the rest of the season are they going to play in New Zealand? I think it's one question.
I can chase that up.
I think that'd be pretty good. Sean Johnson, smoky for Dally M as well.
He's been so good.
Yeah, he would have been picking up all their points. A bit unfortunate he had a head clash with Elliot Whitehead in this one and had to go off.
He got absolutely rocked.
Yeah, so I think he'll be in the concussion protocol at least for a little bit.
They also have both their buys and 2 games against the Dragons in hand, so make of that what you will. Also, through this Origin period, I think they're the only team that doesn't have any Origin players as it stands.
Yeah, they're made of Kiwi internationals. So
I'm just looking here at tough games coming out. They do have a bit of a tough run. So after bye and Dragons, they play South, Para away, Cronulla, Raiders.
Yeah, I feel like they're exactly where the Raiders are. They're middle of the pack, which could push into top 8 side and play finals with the right results going their way.
To finish the year, geez, they play Tigers, Titans, Manly at home, St George, Dolphins. Their last 5 games are all winnable. So I think they're definitely in the top 8. I think contenders is maybe a touch of a stretch.
Yeah, I don't think they're at the same sort of spot where Brisbane Souths and Penrith are at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. Manly looked pretty good. Manly looked like contenders Friday night, 58-18.
Helps when you have the turbo back.
Yeah, he was very good. Ruben Garrick, I think he scored 30 points in this. If my maths is any good, 9 goals, 3 tries, 30 points. Absolute one-way traffic up there at Brookie. Into Saturday's game.
Is that 2? Sorry, for the Finns. Is that 2 back-to-back hammerings for them?
Yeah.
Fins
down.
Yeah. I think Wayne has been asked a few times about whether he's going to make wholesale changes, etc. And I think he's like, I'm sticking behind my guys. They're just in a rough period at the moment. A few injuries, etc. And they're just trying to work it all out. They
do get the bye. It's a bit of a bye-mageddon this week, obviously, going into Origin.
And they've got a couple guys in Origin as well, and guys got injured from Origin. So
I'm sorry, I was a bit horny to talk about the Dragons beating South, although, geez, they nearly bottled it in the last 5 minutes. I was kind of like, South's get a consolation. That's cute. Good for Campbell Graham. He's looking pretty good. Fuck. Oh, shit. That was kind of my thinking. It was literally 3 tries in 3 minutes.
Yes.
But luckily, the Dragons get away with
it. To win it as well.
Missed opportunity. Pretty good game of footy, I thought, obviously, as a Dragons fan. A lot of scoring, full house in there at Jubilee. The Dragons fans have been pretty vocal about their disappointment with the board. Obviously, getting hooked, about a month ago. So good to see a big turnout there and an age-old rivalry. For us, it does help a little bit, perhaps, that there weren't the likes of Trell Mitt, Cam Murray, Jai Arrow, Cody Walker. But a win's a win. And with the Tigers playing the way, not playing the way they are, dealing with their injuries is probably a better point there. May not get the first wooden spoon since 1938, although there's a lot of footy still to go, so don't get too far ahead of ourselves. Broncos, Saturday night. I didn't watch this one, but I did see the highlights. Did you catch much of this?
I also didn't catch this game, but I saw the highlights. There was a bit of a fullback, Queensland fullbacks showing off.
Ponga turned up, didn't he?
Yep. And I think I said before, I can definitely see potential of Ponga, playing in a series at some point, barring injuries, etc. Queensland series, that is. But just showed the class they had. And again, Walsh, I think, had 2 try assists in this and showed why he's still playing, having one of the best seasons so far. And it was, Adam Reynolds, potential maybe in for New South Wales, and Ezra Mann really putting it on in the last 20 to get them the win here.
That last try they scored was
so
sick.
sexy. So sexy to get the win. I think Brisbane, keep their form going. Got a little bit of scare here. I think Cobbo played this game, but then has re-injured his hip pointer and will miss Origin.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate because he got a double, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did score. Cobbo double, as did Dom Young.
Which is unfortunate.
Newcastle's been a bit like that this year, haven't they? Just sort of struggling to win some of these close games. Definitely could be a bit higher on the ladder than what they are. Got to talk about Payne Haas. My goodness, 69 minutes, 41 tackles, 7 tackle busts, 222 metres gained. For mine, best middle in the game, hands down.
Let's hope New South Wales play him longer.
Yeah,
play him more like that.
Yep.
70 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. Play 70 minutes. He's a perennial meter eater and tough guy. Chooks, their woes continue. They looked very, very ordinary. I think 30-6 probably doesn't really reflect how one-sided this game was.
The big news was, Luai played really well in this. We'll get to, Mitch Moses also played really well for the Eels. So there's a lot of guys putting their hands up. Nico Hines on the other side, not so much, but we'll get to that in a second. But the big thing out of this was all the fighting, essentially. I think they had double sin bins. A few swinging arm Hargroves in there. I think he knocked out 2 guys. Liam Martin is one of them, but I think he's been cleared of any concussion, so he should be right to play in Origin, Game 2. But that was really the big story. The Roosters struggling to score points again, really struggling with their spine, their banged up injury, etc. Some serious questions being asked about the Roosters at the moment.
Even Robbo's name?
Yeah, well, I mentioned it last week that there's big questions asked like, oh well, can you coach when you have no talent? Kind of question. You don't have all the money behind having the best talent in your squad. That kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Are you actually a good coach, or are you a product of the rosters that they've been putting together under the sombrero?
I think if you've won premierships, you're a good coach. That would be my take on that.
Yeah. I think it's more they've had a run of bad years through injury, and I think it's just starting to wear on the club. They've just got guys that are just banged up and just can't stay active. So, and their spine's just broken at the moment. I don't think. The cheese has kind of worked out for them. Sam Walker going out injured as well. Joseph kind of in and out injured.
And Teddy, to his credit, I'll always defend him in people say he should be dropped from Origin in that chat, but definitely a step slower than what he has been in the past.
Yeah, but he's not getting no service. It's probably the main thing. The guys around him to put him in the positions to excel aren't there at the moment.
Penny,
I don't think they make that as well.
Ooh, yeah. Let's have a look at the ladder in just a second, because halfway point of the season be interesting to have a look. Storm belted the Sharks down there. It's the only game on Sunday. Christian Welsh hip drop, so he's going to get.
I think he's been offered 1 to 2. It's whether challenge you get down. It wasn't the worst one. Like it's one of those ones where the dude's running through the line and he's grabbed him and is trying to drag him down. It doesn't really land on the legs. Like it looks like he's trying to sit down next to him, like he's trying to do the right thing. But just as the guys run forward and his momentum just kind of drags Christian onto the back of his legs. And he got sent off, of course, in bin for a hip drop. So, yeah, it's whether he'll get a week or whether with his priors having none, he will get off and maybe a fine. The reports were he wasn't going to get picked anyway at this stage for Queensland, so in the long term it doesn't really matter. See how he kind of just fallen behind and then he just
there's not much in that now, is there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about it all year, the hip drop.
Because he kind of just keeps running and then he just ends up, falling on.
Just catches his ankle.
Yeah.
And in the bin too. Outside of that, Melbourne put on an absolute clinic. Harry Grant scored a double.
Sexy.
Yeah, very, very good. Munster Hughes, the usual suspects. Hines, I don't think he was bad enough for people to say that he should be out of the 17. I think he'd definitely be in the 17, but is he wearing 7 or is it a utility role?
Yeah, I think Sharks have larger problems than Nico Hines at the moment. I think they kind of just seem like the team that's tired after last year. They're kind of going in this year and they just haven't. It's kind of like the Cowboys. They haven't really recaptured the mojo they had. And the big thing is they
Bit
haven't.
rough with them being 5th and the Cowboys 14th.
But also, Cronulla has not beaten a top 8 side this year. They're 0 from 9.
That is a big stat there. Today I saw Parramatta won comfortably, but I was driving back from the coast, 34-12. Any highlights? Anyone who's watching the footy?
I just heard Moses was good. Mm-hmm. The King also good.
Oh yeah, the King. He got a hat trick, didn't he, on the King's birthday? So
yeah, he did.
King doing King things there. Moses' numbers, for those all wondering. 120 metres gained, nearly 400 kick metres, 5 tackle busts. Definitely.
2 try assists, probably the big thing.
2 try assists, a line break assist. Definitely played out of his skin. Did his chances no harm.
Table.
Yeah. Penrith got the ladder there. Penny and then Broncos. Now this is grinding my OCD gears a little bit this year with the double buys. Yeah. So Penrith have had both their buys, whereas Brisbane have had none.
Yeah. And same with Storm and then into Souths as well.
Mm-hmm. So Penrith, Brisbane, Storm, Rabbitohs. I think I'd be confident to say that top 4 is a pretty clear tier 1.
Yep.
Then it gets interesting. Yeah. Sharks, Warriors, Raiders, Manly. That rounds out the top 8. Eels, Titans, Dolphins, Roosters, Knights, Cowboys, and then the spoon race, kind of interesting for us as Dragons fans. Dogs, Tigers, Dragons. Tigers about to lose 2 of their best players for the next 6 weeks. Unfortunate. And have also had both their buys.
I feel like from Knights down, none of those will play finals.
I think that's a
Eels, Roosters. That period could sneak into the 8, and it probably depends if those 5 through 8. So Sharks do to Manly, whether one of those teams kind of slips up and falls down.
It's so tight there. Look, so from Rabbits at 18 points in 4th spot to even Newcastle there at 13th. So 3 points. 3 points separates 4th and 13th at the moment.
Yeah, and it'll be a lot. And of course, there's lots of games in hand, etc. It'll be a lot clearer with buys when it comes up, because you could say Brisbane probably 1 at the moment, and South might even be 2, based on the fact they've got 2 buys in hand compared to Penrith and the Storm.
Cowboys also have 2 buys in hand there as well. It's interesting. It's interesting. I suppose the chat as well will continue week to week as to which team will be 18, but we spoke about that last week with possible Papua.
Yeah. No new news on expansion for either leagues so far.
All right, let's get stuck into the main course, which is State of Origin. It's a must-win for the Blues, and Queensland would definitely like to avoid going down to a decider in Sydney. But they announced their team this afternoon. Shauno, resident Queensland fan, do you want to run us through it?
Yeah, well, largely unchanged besides forced injuries.
Yeah.
So
pick and stick, mate. We pick and stick up here. Yeah, we pick and stick. 4X, we pick and stick.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I think
with good reason, I guess.
Well, I think the other point is all the replacements have played for Queensland as well, so there's no debutants. So Coates comes in for Cobbo, kind of a straight swap there, and he's been playing pretty well for the Storm in recent weeks. Nanai gets in for Tom Gilbert, as I kind of think I alluded to last week. He hasn't had the best season so far with the Cowboys, but still definitely talented, and surround him with talent, and I think he'll go all right. And then, how do you say Mo's last name? Fotaweka from the Titans goes in for. It's easier when I just parrot you. Like,
let's do Max Verstappen.
Replaces Jai Arrow, of course, who had the syndesmosis. So interesting. AJ Brimson also had played for Queensland, comes in as 18th. I think that's purely just cover for like everywhere, because he can play.
He's a true utility, isn't he?
Yeah, he can play 1 through to 7, cover Ben Hunt 9, or even Harry Grant at 14. Like he could. So I think that's why he's there as 18th man. I kind of, but they have decided to include him in the squad as 19th man, which basically means he'll carry water and have a few laughs, and that's probably about it.
I have no doubt that he will play Origin at some stage. He's having a lights out year for the Raiders. Probably that last bench spot was Fotaweka or Big Red Horse. As the New South Wales team fan, of the team. A little bit worried that you bring in 3 guys and all of them have Origin experience. Coates is sort of built for big games. Nanai having a little bit of a down year, but we spoke about the year that he had last year, one of the best rookie years.
Yeah, I think he'll do all right if he's like running off Munster.
I
think he'll be okay.
I think he'll be okay. And Fotowake sort of just goes under the radar up there at the Titans a little bit, but gets the job done in the middle. It's a pretty formidable team. Only having to make replacements through injury.
Yep. And speculation, I guess, for New South Wales with the team only going to be announced tomorrow.
It's Tuesday, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that's tomorrow, bro.
I think I made that mistake.
That will do it. It is currently Monday. We normally do it on the Sunday. Dylan Edwards, I think, will play Origin at some stage, but I don't think he'll be announced tomorrow. I think To'o and Fox are pretty safe on the wings. Big news with Latrell Mitchell. Apparently, he's gotten through his fitness test, which means that you have to have. He's playing. If he's fit, he plays.
Yep,
that's a no-brainer. So, Stephen Crichton was arguably our best outside back in game 1. Does he miss out because you probably played Turbo over him, or I suppose there's a world where Crichton gets pushed out to the wing.
Pick your best players, bro.
But then you're playing him out of position. I think Critter is going to miss out.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Turbo.
I think Turbo, when he's on, he's too good. He looked like a bit like old Turbo on Friday night, spanking of the Finns. And I think Critter misses out.
Yeah, agree.
The halves, there's the big talking point. Where do we start?
Because confirmed, Cleary is out. So it's then, do you carry Luai because you really kind of have been picking them for the connection list. He's been good, but I think the connection probably overrules it. And then it's probably you start with 7. Who's your halfback? Then it makes you a decision on who you want to pick as 6.
Which is interesting given that Luai is the established half. Like normally you'd pick it the other way. But is Luai a 2-for-1 deal? Is he...
he's Robin to Batman.
That's right. He's the Powerade that you didn't really need from the servo, but he gets thrown in there anyway. So you're going to have it. It's only another $1.50. Jerome Luai is a good football player in his own right, and he complements Nathan Cleary very well in that he's very good running the football. Cleary's so good with his kicking game. Luai gives you that little bit of X factor, perhaps that Cleary doesn't have. But you take Cleary out of the equation. What do they do at 7? I think, like you said, then you have to work backwards from there because Reynolds' kicking game, or even Mitch Moses, is better than Hines. So if you had one of them, then you sort of lean more towards Luai keeping his spot there. But if Hines goes straight into the 7, that's a big sacrifice in kicking game from what we've seen. And the bloke's only learnt the position, albeit winning a Dally M in the last 18 months to 24 months. So is it a package deal? And Cleary's gone, so that therefore Luai goes. Do they go the old South combo of Walker and Reynolds?
Yeah, well,
I was going to say that. You focus so much on the Penrith combination. There's a lot of names there that are Rabbitohs or maybe even ex-Rabbitohs there as well.
Yeah.
And especially with Cook coming in, but makes sense for the injured Appy.
Yeah. Well, I think everything you said about Luai, I think Cody Walker does better. Plus, I think he's a better ball player as well. So you got that option. If you want that, then that's Walker, and then like you said, Adam Reynolds makes sense as your kicking option, your old head that can run around. And then there's also been that rhetoric. He's not a young rookie making his debut in Queensland to try and win a series. And you throw a young fella to the wolves essentially.
Well, and the fact that he plays at Suncorp week in week out, I think that's a fair point.
Yeah. But then also Moses has played Origin, played pretty well. But then neither of those guys have won a Dally M, but then also those teams, they've beaten guys in the top 8 this year. So
there's a lot of ifs and buts, isn't there?
I think I've said I think Souths are the best team in the comp at the moment with the talent-wise and the way they're playing. Yeah, especially when they have the whole team playing. Let's caveat the 17. And if you've got Trell Mitt in there and you've got Cook and you're going to throw Walker in there, to me, the Adam Reynolds having that previous connection just maybe makes too much sense. But I'd also say pick the best players. And I think Hines is probably the best halfback out of those three, and I think Walker's the best 6. So
Walker and Hines. As a Queenslander, is that the combination that you would like us least to pick?
yes.
Watch us go out and pick someone different. I think that's a reasonable 6-7 there in Walker Hines.
Yeah.
I say reasonable. The Dally M winner and arguably the most informed 6 in the comp this year.
Yep. I had a side question for you. I had this thought: if DCE had pulled his hammy, who do you think would play halfback outside of Ben Hunt for Queensland?
Hunt would have been my initial. That's a good question. Sam Walker's hurt at the moment.
It's very dire.
Fogarty?
Bingo! Yeah. He'd be the most informed halfback.
Yeah.
We'd be Fogarty. So, yeah. And you guys have 3 to pick from, plus the one already injured.
The depth isn't our issue. I saw someone pick a reserves team, that all guys that didn't play game 1. I was like, that's a fucking pretty good team. So depth isn't the issue, and I suppose we spoke about it last week as well. Like, why it's a culture thing. Like, what is going on with the talent? No one is questioning. It's winning games in Origin, but that's if you listen to that discussion, check out last week's episode.
Yep. And it's also getting that combination right. Like, you have so many players to pick from. Like, what's the right set of players to pick?
Do what Queensland does. Pick the best ones.
Well, clearly hasn't worked for us.
We haven't been picking the best ones. That's my point.
Yeah.
Walker and Hines, I don't mind that. Walker and Hines for mine. Monks, anything to add?
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of do lean a little bit more towards Reynolds. He's kicking, but I don't know if that leads you a little bit. Yeah, I don't know.
Fittler's going to outthink himself. He'll pick Luai and Moses.
It's going to be interesting. We're going to find out in about 12 hours. Yeah. Now, all reports are that Tevita Pangai Jr. is going to miss out. He got through today's game unscathed. His offload, look, you're not going to put it all down to that, but it was definitely a catalyst in us losing game 1. This one is really up in the air too. So Regan Campbell-Gillard played today, only just came back from injury. Lots of chat about Spencer Leniu, Freddie and Panthers, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that's all reports. And I think he probably... would you put him on the bench? He'd be the bench guy,
and then start Junior Paulo and Payne Haas. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because I think that probably makes more sense, because then he would rotate with Paulo as their first kind of forward rotation, and then Haas could probably play the first whole of the first half, and then maybe have a break to start the second, and then play the back end of the game. So
got to utilise Payne Haas. Hey,
yeah,
got to
exactly.
Tevita Totola from South, if they want more South players, then it's definitely an option. But that one will be interesting to see who partners. Payne Haas picks himself, obviously, as the other middle forward.
Yeah, I think if anything, maybe there might be some rotation. I haven't seen any reports on whether Hudson Young was going to be picked or not again, but I feel like he probably won't start. I think they might go more Murray or Martin as a starter.
To go along with Tyson Frizzell, and Isaiah Yeo picks himself as the lock forward.
Who's your utility?
Well, again, that all depends on who plays 7. So if we
haven't talked about, like, Matt Burton was 18th man in the last game, and he could play 6. He could play 7.
He could go straight in there. There's so many options. I would hate to be Freddie in the selection panel tonight, because that'd just all be in the team if it was up to me. Might be a little short on middle forwards. That's a great question. I think it's hard now to pick a bench without a starting 13. But as long as we mention all the names in contention.
Robson was put in the squad, so he could be 14.
And I think that's hurt us as well. When Appy's had to play 80 minutes without having a true hooker, we've seen the combination of Ben Hunt and Harry Grant working so well for the Maroons. Do we take a page out of their book and go with 2 recognised hookers?
And I think Robson's probably a good option because he's got a bit of extra size as well. Like, he could, come in, play. Yeah, give Cook a breather when you want, and then switch it back, and then instead of taking him off, he can play. He can slide into the second row somewhere.
Yep. We'll find out in about 12 hours. So probably by the time most people listening to this will have a team, and you can see how wrong we were. Queensland.
No, how wrong Fittler was.
Either or. All right, let's bring it south of the Ron Barassi line. Thursday night, the Budweiser, he played his 350th, but much like Toot Croker, they lost as well. Only 22 Aussie rules players have ever played 350. I was having a look at the numbers. I don't think he'll finish top 10. In fact, I'm confident he won't. Adam Goods, fellow Indigenous Sydney
Think
Swan
it's his last year?
there, 372. Yes, I do think it's Buddy's last year, given how far or, how many finals games they play.
What does he max out? Yeah, like 365.
Yeah, tops. Yeah, tops. I think, it'll be, provided he doesn't go around again, which I'd be very, very, very surprised if he did. Sort of low 360s, and provided he doesn't get hurt. But as you can see from that list there, that gets him, he's going to jump a fair few people. So the names on there are pretty big. Eddie Betts, Matthew Pavlich, Joel Selwood, Paul Roos, Gary Ablett. John Blakey, that's the Lizard, is Nick Blakey, his teammate, that's his old man. So he's probably going to go to 12th, 13th, something like that, all time. And he's definitely, this is one I can tell you with 100% confidence, he's going to finish 4th on the goal scorers list. So he's still 200 odd goals behind Chief Dunstall. But he went past Doug Wade in this game, so he'll be 4th all time in goals. And again, the question is now, with the way that the game is, will anyone ever kick 1,000 goals again?
Yeah, I doubt it.
Anyways, talking all about Buddy, the Saints did win this game. Rowan Marshall, great for them. Did you boys see the Dan Butler tackle? This is concerning for me if this is a week in the modern game. Obviously, player safety, yada, yada, yada. To me, this looks like a textbook from behind tackle. Those words came out wrong. If this is a week, I don't know what precedent we're setting in the AFL. If you haven't seen it, check out the Dan Butler tackle and let us know your thoughts. I'm sure Saints fans would be pretty upset about the result from this one. We've got ads coming through there. Thank you, Adam Wegner, joining us in the chat. Who will be Australia's red ball openers after Warner and Khawaja after they retire? Well, that's a great question because Khawaja's not far off retirement age either. I think he's 36 years of age. We probably, need to do the old 30 seconds or less in answering this one because this could be a 30-minute conversation.
I think Harris is anointed and it'll be him and Travis Head.
You think Travis Head is going to go up the order?
Yeah, I think so.
I think he's batting too well at 5.
I know, but he also batted well at opening. So maybe they start with
30
that.
seconds or less.
Maybe they start with that and then see. I think Cam Bancroft needs to go.
Redemption song.
Yeah.
Sing this song of freedom.
Those three are my options.
I don't know if Pekowski's going to play Test cricket again. Like I want him to. I want him to.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, but he's missing so
fan favourite.
much. Yeah.
That's probably the options. And I think if Head goes up, maybe Footbrush comes back in.
Down the order a little bit. So long term, are we saying Harris and Bancroft 30 seconds or less with Head,
some sort of that kind of combination.
And Henry Hunt, the question comes up, an unbelievable talent, very, very young. Now, for mine, Henry Hunt's probably 4 or 5 years off playing Test cricket. Keep that name in mind. For 4 or 5, no, he probably could be 18 months off playing Test cricket. But I think the anointed Marcus Harris is
those
going
other
to be
three.
there.
The other three will get a
Bancroft
first. Yeah.
And then we can start talking about the likes of Henry Hunt, Pekowski if he ever gets right. Sam Whiteman's pretty good.
Exactly. Well, let's think about what that looks like Christmas next year when they go through that series. And if the openers are struggling, they'll be looking for different options.
Yeah. Kawhi just played himself into having like a year of bad form before you need to have any conversations there. But it's a good question there. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
So we've got the Dan Butler tackle here. This
is it just a good tackle?
It just looks like a good tackle.
It's a good tackle
from behind. Like I don't know. Like what are you?
He stays down.
What are you supposed to do there?
And I'm not sure, Jimmy, if you want to pick up the McLuggage one because that was interesting. Because I don't think that wasn't picked up in the game, and I don't think it actually went to judiciary afterwards. But he hits his head on the ground. I think is the main thing. That's just a hard tackle.
That's not how does Dan Butler have control over that?
Yeah, exactly. You can't. He doesn't know how strong the dude's neck is and whether he will or won't hit. He just hit him hard to make a tackle. I don't think so. And I kind of feel like the AFL's going to that precedent of just tackling out of the game.
It's a dangerous precedent.
It's just like handball kicks, move the
Dan
ball
Butler's
around
done
and score
everything
points.
that's a good textbook tackle. It's unfortunate that the head makes contact with the ground, but there's no slinging action. It's not high. It's not late.
So watch this one. There is slinging action. Hugh kind of tucks his head and hits it on the ground, knocks himself out, and he's prone on the ground for like a good minute and a half. But they played on, and I don't think anything came of this post the match either. So that only shows the end result.
Oh, poor fella.
See him pick it up.
Very groggy there. I'm sure it'll show it again.
So he's got to get spin around, bang into the ground, and he's out. So there's more.
There is slinging there.
Yeah.
But again, to me, all thoughts with Hugh, hopefully recovering well from a pretty nasty concussion there. Again, that seems just like a legal tackle.
Yeah. They don't like the slinging. I think the big thing in the recent weeks is those slinging like tackles, and especially when it slings and you hit a dude in the ground. There's been a lot of guys getting sent to match review committee for those ones.
The sling's different because you do have. I know it does happen very quick, and it's hard, like a lot of people that play even park Aussie rules have had to try to train that out of your brain.
Yeah, you're trying to tackle action. Through a guy and down. It's not like grab a dude, spin him around, and put him on the ground. So that to me, the first one, the Dan Butler tackle, is fine, and I would have thought the second one is, the slinging. If that's what they're trying to get rid of, that would be worse in my opinion.
Yeah, it's hard because just the nature of the tackle, because he's wrapped his arms up, which is a good tackle you want to do. He hits his head on the ground, and you can't avoid that.
Again, hoping Nick Blakey's all good, but I don't know what world we're living in if that's a dangerous tackle. That's not a free kick.
Yeah. They'll steal an NFL rule and make defenseless ball carriers and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, the problem with the AFL is it's a 360-degree game, so you're always defenseless.
Yes, if you can't see the dude, you're defenseless. So,
Yeah, interesting precedent. It'll be interesting to see how they adjudicate stuff like that moving forward. Port Adelaide continue their winning ways, 107 to 85 point winners in Melbourne against the Dogs. That's 10 on the trot for them. Charlie Dixon, he booted 4, looked very, very good in this one. Boys, we've been talking about Nick Dacos. He is the Brownlow favourite and should be given
still
the way
$1.70.
Given the way that he's been playing. I think he's a touch over $2, perhaps. Zach Butters is definitely one to watch. We do see guys get rubbed out all the time through injury or suspension. His last 5 games, he's had a plethora of votes, if you will, including a 41 disposal game against the D's a few weeks ago. He hasn't had a game under 25 posies since round 3. He had 31 in a sausage roll in this one. He's 23 years of 22, perhaps. It could be a young winner. We're saying the winners be younger and younger as a general trend. Definitely one to keep in your mind for punters and AFL fans. And Port Adelaide definitely one to keep an eye on. They are second on the ladder and
can they win the comp?
On form, yeah, definitely they can. Fucking oath they can win the comp.
Yeah, I feel like this is what they wanted last year, and they started so poorly that they threw the year away.
They're more healthy this year.
Yeah, exactly. This is the Port Adelaide team I think they expected. So.
Actually, even now with following Collingwood's loss on points there, the Prison Bars, 1 and 2. We spoke about the McLuggage concussion, but Brisbane did go down to Hawthorn. In this one. Sean, you watched it, Lions fan, your thoughts?
Unfortunately, yes, I did. And I feel like, we've talked a fair bit about how the Lions struggle to play away from home from the Gabba. And I think this game, being at the MCG, was clear as day because the MCG is much bigger than the Gabba is. And the amount of space that Hawthorn had and the amount of free options they had, they just ran around them. I think the Lions, the way their team is built, The style they play, they've got a few older heads. They might not have the pace that some of the other teams do. Suits them really well at the Gabba, but go to somewhere like the MCG. They play pretty well in Geelong, another smaller ground. But here at the MCG, in a bigger ground, they get found out. And I feel like they did. When I've watched games where they've played really poorly, it's been where they've been found out with a bit of extra pace, and that their style of play doesn't fit with the bigger grounds. So, that's my feeling in watching this. And you watch this game. Yes, they played pretty poorly, but also I think you just watch it and the effort the Hawthorn guys had, and a guy would get a ball and you had 3 or 4 different options just completely unmarked, and they just ran all over him. So it was a very dismal showing, and again, we'll make that statement. The Lions have to go away and figure out how to win games away from Queensland.
It's not a big difference, you wouldn't think, that between the MCG and the Gabba. Obviously, the G's a fair bit bigger. But yeah, I don't know. Is that what it is? Is it the conditions? They like the warmth, the humidity up there that plays into it. I'm not really sure. Interesting that you mentioned. Yeah, Geelong is tiny. It's actually it's the smallest AFL field currently at the moment. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's field size. I think it's the travel. I think it's the same thing that's been their issue for the last 10 years.
They lack pace, I think, is the main thing. Especially in their back line. They've got a lot of big talls playing in their back line. Daniel Rich doesn't have the legs that he once did. So, if they get buried down there and then they have struggle to get it out, which they did in this game, they were buried in their own half for the majority of the fourth quarter. They struggle to kind of clear it out and get involvement back into what is their strength, their small forwards in their forward line.
Kudos to the Hawks. Big scout for them. Mitch Lewis booting for James Sicily, probably on the cusp of an All-Australian again this year. He had 32 disposals in this one, including 23 kicks. All right, probably the big talking point from Saturday in the AFL was the Texans' 250th. Adelaide go out and kick a casual 27 goals at the Adelaide Oval. He boots 10 of them. The Crows were like $1.02 to win this game. Now I know West Coast has been bad.
They're so bad.
Like the Crows are like a mid-tier team. Like it's not like they're going up against Collingwood or Port. Maybe the bookies knew the occasion. This was going to be one-way traffic, and it was one-way traffic throughout the entire game. 122 was the winning margin. The Crows posting the biggest score of the year by a fair bit.
Yeah, I think West Coast, have been playing bad, but their injury tolls only getting worse. I feel like I saw an image that said they had like 600 games worth of experience on the sideline at the moment. So, I think they're just struggling. They're in all sorts.
They've just all gotten old at the same time, haven't they? I didn't think they were going to be this bad this year. Like no one had high hopes for them, but yeah, they've been the worst team by a ways. They are only 4 points behind North Melbourne, but then it's like it gets a fair bit away from them after that.
Yeah, they concede a lot of points and they don't score very many, based on what Jimmy just highlighted there.
I wonder what they're paying for the spoon. It's not $1.02, as what the Crows were paying in this one. I'll chase that up, but it would be pretty short odds, I'd imagine.
Fremantle then, of course, took on Richmond in the next match with the Tigers getting a win. Great weekend for the Tigers on the field. A little bit horrible for it off the field at the moment, with Pickett getting picked up. Is the big major story getting picked up for, what did they say, 12 charges of burglary, stealing $400,000 worth of items.
And this is from the off-season as well. So it's sort of charges relating to 2022 to the start of 2023. So it's all sort of come to fruition over the weekend. He's in big trouble.
Yeah.
Like he everyone knew the story, made a debut in a grand final. Only a handful of players have done that in the history of the game. Had spent time in jail before. The allegations are very, very serious. If he does get charged. He's been charged. If he does get convicted, I should say, it's definitely jail again.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side is that Pickett's people have come out and said he's got nothing to do with it. It was a group involved. His name's just been thrown into it. They're going to fight the allegations very hard and clear his name. So it's all a little bit too early to comment on too much.
Yeah, but you would think the coppers would have some evidence for the reason for why they've included him and charged him.
Yep.
Monks, you got the story?
So, news article says police prosecutors said it would be alleged that a camper van was hired under Pickett's name, which was then driven interstate, and he received sums of $6,000 and $9,000 into his bank account.
Why? If that is true, and that's again allegations at this stage, what the fuck is going through his head? He'd be on $500,000.
Yeah,
Like what? He's like. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
But mate, it sounds more based on that. He's more of an accessory than actually doing the burglary. Like he's used his
more dumb in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. It is. They've used
Not even the mastermind.
Yeah, this is like the mates asked, "Hey, can I use you to hire a camper van?" And he's gone, "Yeah, sure, whack my name on it." And it's just like, I'll flick you some cash for doing so.
Yeah.
But I think the sums of cash kind of leads to maybe he knew more about what's going or what was happening. But.
Well, further says that it's alleged that he purchased some clothing which is alleged to have been seen on CCTV from the incidents. As you mentioned before, he's got those priors as well from 2010-11. So
maybe running with the wrong crowd.
Well, definitely.
Bit of a Ja Morant.
But it's
more serious than Ja Morant.
Yeah, a bit more serious than Ja.
more serious. Although waving a gun around in this country might land you in a bit of trouble too.
That's true.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. It's too early to really comment much further than what's been said.
There are other big story out of this game that I wanted to talk about, and Jimmy, if you could find it, I believe Sean Darcy has been offered a massive contract by the Pies. Can you check if I have? I know it's Darcy. I just want to make sure I've got the team right because I'm pretty sure.
Haven't really Darcy Cameron's a pretty good ruck when he's going, but there've been games this year when he's been hurt. They haven't gone with a notable ruckman. So yeah, that kind of makes sense, especially with Luke Jackson going back and signing on for.
I said Sean, bro. Sean, my name.
I'm getting there.
What was the other story? Basha Hooley as well.
Okay,
involved in a horrendous car accident over the weekend. Okay by all accounts, but he's broken his pelvis and several bones, and
it's long rehab.
Yeah, so it's going to be a long rehab for him. So great weekend for the Tigers. Actually won this game and winning over there in WA against a Freo team which has been improved this year. No easy feat. Coming off all the dimmer stuff last week, and then it just goes from bad to worse with the Pickett stuff and Hooley. So be interesting to see for Tigers fans and the team how they bounce back from it.
It's Geelong.
Geelong.
Not Collingwood. I knew it was one of the top teams. Geelong.
It's got the bands around the wrong way. Also kind of makes sense. Makes sense. Often, we'll go with Stanley and Blitzarves going the tag team there, but both pretty good players in their own rights outside of the ruck. So that'll be interesting to see if that happens.
Either way, reading that, it looks like he's a big payday inbound for Sean Darcy. As one of the premier rucks at the moment.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And very, very young too.
Even if he doesn't leave Freo, that's a fair bit of leverage there to get a bit more coin.
Yep.
GWS?
Yeah, just breeze over this. GWS getting the win down there at Blundstone Arena. Toby Green, very good, 24 posies, 3 goals in this one. We have to talk about it. I don't really want to talk about it.
Let's talk about it. How are you feeling this year, Peppy? We're following Dragons and in the Blues at the moment.
We kind of knew that the Dragons weren't going to be great, so that hasn't come as a big surprise. The Dragons as well have lost a lot of games against really good opposition by a try. And again, there's still losses. The coach got sacked. The boards are schmozzles. Blah blah blah.
Being competitive, etc.
Some of these Carlton games are
dreadful.
Are quite frustrating to watch. Given the kick, it's this one problem in that they get a lot of centre clearances, they get a lot of inside 50s, and converting that into points.
Read the stat line for what did they kick in this one?
6 goals, 16, which hasn't been that out of the ordinary for them this year. And it's a lot's been spoken about Harry Mackay and all of his woes. He didn't get super involved in this one. Poor Charlie Curnow has the opposite effect. He gets heaps of footy, clunked a lot of marks. He just didn't kick very straight. 2 goals, 4 in this.
It's contagious.
Yeah, look, it's not, and you can't just put it down on your two tools because they're both common winners. Like they need to do a little bit better finishing, sure, but
service, etc. And
it's a whole team issue as well. When your smalls you've got these two massive targets out there that can clunk a mark. Your smalls need to be making more of a contribution. You've got this really elite midfield in Cripps, Walsh, and Cherrers come along leaps and bounds. That should be doing. Really, on paper, they just should be a lot better than what they are.
Considering they only just missed out on that 8 last year, and they started really well.
They've lost 7 out of their last 8 games. They sit 15th.
What was Steamer's stat? Have they 5 games in a row with less than 60 points?
Yeah, they can't score points. That's the issue. That's the issue.
And you look at this, like they had 22 scoring opportunities versus 23. So, yes, they're not all the same, and you can't.
It's 21, actually, 22 versus 21. Yeah, scores.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. Right. Yes. So they had one more in that regards. Potentially, putting a goal away. So they're getting options. Yeah, but like you say, can't convert.
Yeah, and I don't know where it comes. I said last week I think they had to win this game to play finals football. I know that's a bold statement to make at the halfway mark, but it's just starting to get too far away. They do. The saving grace is the next 2 games are Hawthorn and Suns after the bye. So
they'll probably lose the Suns.
They have to I was talking about maybe the season potentially in terms of finals football may have been over last night. They have to win those 2 games or it's forget about it.
Yeah. And then following that conversation, I guess for how badly they're going, more and more pressure is being put on the coach.
It's too early for mine.
Yeah,
the way that the David Teague stuff got dragged out, it was like a season and a half of how long does David Teague last? They get their man in Michael Voss.
And how long's he been there?
18 months?
Yeah.
Like he deserves longer than that. I think it's too early for it for him to be on the end of the chopping block.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from the rhetoric of, the problems with the club are coachable things,
It's like the Roosters, what you're talking about before. It's like, I think it's too early.
Yeah. I tend to agree, and I don't think you really want to blow it up and try starting again as well. Plus, there's, most of the good coaching options were picked up last year in the last cycle. So,
but it's a weird year with coaches, man. It's a weird year. We've seen 2 of the GOATs depart their respective teams. So who knows? But for mine, no, too much media beat up. Yes, the performances need to be there. Yes, it seems like it's coachable stuff, given that look at the lists above them in the Giants, Swans, Suns, for example. I don't think their lists are any better. Well, I know for a fact their lists aren't better on paper than the Blues list.
Yep. But I think that's the problem. Let's come back to this in 2 weeks, and if they've lost both those games,
well, then you can start. You can have that. If it's a fortnight's time and they've lost to Hawthorn and the Suns, which would mean that they're 8 losses from 9 games, it would mean they're 9 from 10. I'll have the conversation then.
Yeah. I think they should beat Hawthorn. I think it might be a coin flip against the Suns at the moment.
Where do we play them? That's an interesting thing.
Because based on what I saw before, I think they play Suns first.
Yeah, and there's a buy thrown in there as well, which always throws rhythm out.
Suns at the MCG, then the buy, and then
it's Hawthorn at the MCG.
At MCG, yeah.
And then I think they have a tough run. So then they go at Freo, good luck. Port at home, good luck. Eagles at home. So again, you imagine they beat the Eagles. So those 3 games that we've highlighted there, Hawthorn, Suns, and Eagles. West Coast have to win. That's not even negotiable. And then one of those games there against Freo away or Port at home, they have to win 4 out of the next 5 to even consider finals football.
Yeah. Yes, they got to win if they're going to make it.
John Madden. Well, what they got to do here is win more games, and then they can play finals football.
Yeah,
score more points than the other.
That's what
score more points than the other team.
More points than the other team.
Yeah. It's going to be a bit of a challenging road at the moment, especially if they can't score points themselves. So.
And you look at their percentage there and the for and against, they've conceded 1,020. So there's nothing wrong with their, defensively. That's the same as what the Crows, Bombers, Bulldogs have all conceded. But then if you look at the points for, like 300 points less than the Crows, 200 odd
also,
less than the Bombers.
They're only 20 less than, say, St Kilda is. So
yeah. Yeah,
they've defended really well as a comparison.
Well, that's the comparison. St Kilda's defense has been superb, but it's and not just score. It's converting from inside 50 because it's not like they're not getting the clearances. That's problem number 1. I think problem number 2, we can't get into it too much, but tackling pressure and sticking tackles is probably problem number 2.
Yeah.
Today, massive game, big freeze. Again, I was driving home from the coast. I didn't catch much of this. I did see the end. But Melbourne breaking the Collingwood run. Interesting to see Collingwood lose a close game. It seems over the last 2 years they've had the rub of those, pretty much inevitably winning close games. A massive turnout there, 85,000. Boys, did you see much of this one this afternoon?
I didn't, but I kind of feel like this game is maybe Melbourne kind of pushing their title contentions again. I feel like they're kind of, we've knocked off the top team. You look at their percentage there, it's as good as Collingwood, and they're the two that are far better than everyone else at the moment. They score a lot of points and they defend really well.
Port dirty there.
Yeah. Well, look,
I agree.
I'm just going off what I'm seeing in front of me, and their percentage is comparable to where the Lions, St Kilda and Essendon are, and even the Crows. Whereas they're the two just ahead of everyone else, just based on they've scored more points and they've defended better.
Still harsh, I think, for a team that's 10 on the trot and 11 too. But anyways, I see where we are coming from. In terms of Melbourne, yes, have shown a bit of a shimmer of premiership Ds. Just got the numbers here, considering none of us really saw too much of it. I'll just chuck the beanie on. Jack Viney had himself a day, 32 posies, 11 tackles, sausage roll. Bailey Fritsch had 3 goals in this one. Had Petrarca go? 28.
Had Dacos go?
Good question in terms of quiet. I wonder if he copped a tag. Or did he get hurt? He had 17. Oh, no, that was Josh. Sorry.
He had 27.
He had 27 and a goal.
Yep. Yeah, it's not too
bad. Probably should have watched some highlights, boys, I think, on this one. But it's only just did just happen.
Yeah. And that, I think, is footy. Geelong and Gold Coast had the buys.
Rolled us into some basketball.
Curry sets, fires, puts it up, bang!
NBA Finals, we did cover Game 1 on the last pod. We'll just do a very quick recap. Joker triple-double, Denver win. That's all you need to talk about.
Pretty much.
We did say that the Heat had no help from their role players in Game 1. Struce, Martin and Robinson combined for 2 field goals. So... not really good enough when you're really relying on Bam and Jimmy buckets. And then Game 2, Game 3, Game 4 all happened this week. So Miami, it's science apparently. Miami win this game. Joker doesn't get a triple double. He does score 41 points in this one. But it was a very different game from the rest of the Heat in that Gabe Vincent had 23. He hit 4 threes. Max Struess, especially early, hit 4 threes. Thoughts on this one? This was a work day, wasn't Game 2? Yeah, Game 2 was the work day one. Yes.
And they played a different style kind of game in that. Forced Joker, even more was, Murray is a little bit more quiet.
I think that's
in that. So, and then, same story in Game 4. So I feel like they've probably sewn this up at this
Yeah, I think it's a gentleman's sweep. I think within 24 hours we'll be talking about the Nuggets' first championship, but we'll leave that for next podcast. Obviously, the stats have been done to death for once a team goes down 3-1.
Joker's been so good. I think he was there. They were saying there was some ridiculous stat. It was like 500 points, 200 rebounds, and 150 assists or something. He's the only player to ever do that in a playoff
final series,
across the finals. So,
what about having a stat line of 23, 10, and 4, and asking him about that? Anyone who hasn't seen that, Journo asked him about that, and he's like, "That's like my worst stat line."
I think
shaking his head.
I think he overtook Wilt Chamberlain for something. So
but that question that he asked was regarding that peculiar stat line, which isn't anything to write home about, and it was the same stat line that LeBron and KD and Tim Duncan had. Yeah. And he was just like shaking his head. He's like, what the fuck is this question? Like, don't you guys go to university and do journalism? So you come up with. Anyways, it was kind of funny. Game 3, so both Joker and Jamal Murray triple doubles. There was Kobe and Shaq talk coming out there. Is that a little bit?
Well, I've been seeing some chat there about
too hyperbolic.
Is Murray the best point guard at the moment? I think it's probably too early to anoint him to that kind of talk, but he's been really good, and both him and Joker have elevated their play come finals time. So
and
that I think's been the main difference.
Their combinations have been crazy. Look, to say that in one game they look like Kobe and Shaq, okay, I think that's a reasonable statement. But it's a pretty lofty comparison. Is this what you're up about here for breaking Wilt Chamberlain records? So whenever you break anything, that's got
Wilt's name on it.
Yeah. What is it, Max?
There you go.
500 points, 250 rebounds, 150 assists in a single postseason.
That's pretty close.
I think that's what you said.
Nah, it was
200 rebounds.
Yeah, I was off by 50.
8 triple doubles in the.
That was the Wilt one. He was asked about having more triple doubles than
most triple doubles in a postseason, not in finals.
Sorry, yeah.
Blah blah blah. Something about his uncle.
His brothers have been getting a lot of airtime as well.
Yeah, they give it a lot to the crowd.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
That was
game 3.
30, 20, and 10, first time ever in the finals.
What I kind of think's been forgotten about this is Aaron Gordon's been playing pretty good as a third fiddle for them.
Oath he has been.
Yeah, because I was checking out game 4, he was a top scorer. He got 27 points. So I think they just kind of found their rhythm where they don't have to rely purely on Joker, and they're playing good team basketball. But the fact is they also have Joker in their team to help them through those situations. So I think it's. Theirs for the taking. It'll be a very, very big turnaround from the Heat. Whether they can kind of do what the Celtics did to them and win the next 2 and force a Game 7 will be.
It'd be great for viewers, wouldn't it?
Yes,
to have a Game 7. I agree, though. I think Game 5 gets wrapped up in the Mile High City.
I think they've just been doing too good of a job on Jimmy B, and he just hasn't been able to put up his, illustrious kind of stats, and pushing his talent to take over games. Like I think they've been able to manage him and keep him out of the games well enough that they don't get caught up in the Hemi buckets hype.
Yeah, and just sort of counter the good deed that's been played by Denver. Jimmy, by his illustrious standards, probably a little bit lackluster so far. Bam, very good. Probably saved his best for the finals. I think
he's going up against Joker.
I think the Heat's problem, we alluded to it before, but too much reliance on 3-point shooting from role players. So if Maxi Strus and Duncan Robinson aren't on, Caleb Martin, I think, and Gabe Vincent have sort of played better than anyone's expected them to throughout the whole postseason. But if you're really relying on those guys to drain some threes, you can see it in game 2. You might win a few when they're able to hit 4 threes, but most of the time it's not going to happen. What do you got there for us, Monks?
So on 3 points, that's the shooting percentage.
This is Heat?
Heat for the Heat, yeah.
So 45% against the Bucks, that's pretty impressive that in the conference semi-finals they shot the 3 ball at 30%, just over, and actually got through the Knicks, albeit the Knicks even worse from 3-point land.
Yeah.
And then this is telling. Conference finals, they shot the 3 ball at 43.4% against the Celtics, which is unreal, and so much of that came from Strus and Robinson and the like. And then in the finals, back down to 36%, which again, it's only a tick under the Nuggets, but the Nuggets play a very different type of ball. Yeah. They're not reliant on it. They don't really have a prolific 3-point shooter outside of Murray. So if you're basing your sort of game around that nearly sort of Dubs-like kind of mentality of shooting the 3 ball, and you're only shooting it at 36%,
you turn it over a lot.
Fucking oath.
Yeah, and you allow Joker and Murray to go out the other end and get an easy field goal, and they'll just rack up points on you.
I like that you mentioned Aaron Gordon as well. Credit where credit's due. Again, I think being the third, if you will, in that big three, probably opens him up a lot. But for a bloke that's just gone out and scored 27 points in a critical finals game, kudos to big Aaron Gordon. He's an athletic fucker, isn't he? Aaron Gordon. And then, maybe probably next week, we'll be talking about Nugs Championship celebrations. Wouldn't mind seeing the big Joker on the end of a few beer skulls. Yeah. I reckon he'd put them away if he wanted to.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
It'd be interesting whether it's a quiet, subdued celebration from the big man, because he's pretty subdued in front of the camera, especially in his media engagements. But maybe once they turn the cameras off and
wait
the
till the
Rakia
comes out. He's introducing some of his teammates to Rakia.
Yeah.
A bit of hairs on your chest, that'll fire water will. All right, let's go from one huge round ball sport to the other one. Man City treble. It's been on the cards.
Yeah, I think Man United
back of the year, really.
had to do us a solid and win their FA Cup.
And that seemed like the most likely chance of it not happening. Yeah. So second English team to ever complete the treble, which is, of course, the league, the FA Cup and the Champions League. United, the only other team to have done it back in 98-99. And the year that United did it, they won the league by a mere point. Wow. So City actually, to sort of really rub salt in the wounds for those who think that Manchester is indeed red. City did it even more convincingly than that famous 98-99 team.
Yeah, well, if anything, we should blame Arsenal for bottling their season.
Yep.
I like having the two big brothers, and then it's all like just as a third. I was going to say a different word. Unathletic brother is the one you're like, oh, he fucked it. So let's blame Gunners. Credit again to City, unbelievable team on paper. Showed that they can win Champions League games even without De Bruyne. I think City's had me pretty early. Yeah. It was just the one Rodri goal. Although Inter did have a lot of chances, I think 14 shots on goal, possession pretty even. So this one could have definitely gone the other way. And City, get the treble done. I was actually looking, there's actually a fair few teams that have done it, but obviously the league that they come from plays into it a little bit. They still have to win Europe. Yeah. So it's not like, slouch teams. PSV Eindhoven has done it. Celtic have done it. Mm-hmm. And then the teams that you would expect, I think Barca's done it. I think Real's done it twice. I think Bayern's done it twice from memory. There was like 8 teams total.
Yeah. It's a big accomplishment. It's very difficult to do.
Yeah, but only 2 English, and EPL is the GOAT of all the soccer leagues, in my opinion. So Bayern go out and win their Farmers League Bundesliga 11 times in a row, and they win 2 there. All they've got to do is win a measly Champions League to do it. You know what I mean? I hate to say it, but congratulations to Manchester City.
Yeah. You mentioned Celtics a second ago. What were your thoughts on Arj going to Ange going to
Arj Backer? He's going to Spurs. Archie Badgie.
Ange going to Tottenham to the Spurs.
Massive news, and I'm glad you remembered it because we don't have it in the notes there. It's the first Australian ever to be manager of a Premier League team, any Premier League team.
Yeah, so really worked his way to it as well. Like very deserving. He's been all over the place. Coached internationally. Coached the Celtics for a very long time. Being
Celtic. It's not
Celtic,
Boston.
Sorry. Celtic. Single one.
Yeah, fucking daft bastard.
Coached them for a very long time, and they've been very competitive and won a whole heap of championships under his watch as well. So.
It's the biggest coaching achievement for an Australian ever. Mm-hmm. The fact, the moment that now do World Cups. It's the biggest club coaching achievement, I think, for an Australian ever.
Well, he did good for Australia in the World Cup as well. Correct. So as the Australian head coach. So
correct.
Won their first Asian Cup.
I had to check my words there because maybe a guy like Hus Hiddink or someone might have something to say about World Cup runs. But in terms of club football, the fact that he's at Spurs, it's huge. Do any Aussies get brought into the Spurs equation? I don't think so. I don't think there's anyone that's really good enough at the moment. Harry Suter.
I feel like they might have, one or two, like some guys that he knows really well, maybe for cultural things, but like on the list, not in your top squad.
There's no one you're going to be starting 11. That's for sure.
Exactly. Probably in the back end of the 30. You might have one or two guys that you know really well that can come in, veteran presence, know the way you want to implement your football, your systems, and then help out through that process. I think you definitely find one or two, but yeah.
Aaron, I was just checking. So Aaron Moy is the only Aussie on that Celtic squad list. So does he throw him a bone and play him 3 minutes here and there? I don't think Aaron Moy is starting in the Premier League anytime soon. Tommy Rogic was there, but has taken some time off football, I think, in general, and is back in Australia. So no one really comes to mind unless he from Australian coaching goes and speaks to their scouts and says, "Can we try to
young
bring
fellas? Is there any 18-year-olds
such and such in at the?" I just don't think it's
but most of us
I'd love to see it happen.
Yeah, most of us hope maybe it's a little bit of a pathway into the EPL as well. But like I said, I think if anything, it'll be more on the back end of the roster where you have maybe a trial kind of thing or an old veteran, for your system kind of thing, maybe. But I like I said, it'd be the 30th position we're talking about, not anywhere near potentially playing.
Now, his big decision straight up is Harry Kane's future because has been reluctant to put pen to paper to re-sign with Tottenham.
Probably want to know who the coach was going to be.
Huge club sniffing around for all my Spurs friends. Big club like Manchester United, a lot of trophies, Manchester is red, etc. Yeah. If you want some cash or money, could end up being a Geordie. So if Kane goes, then where does Ange go? Tim Cahill getting a phone call. Obviously, as fans of Australian football, want to see Ange do well. Massive achievement there. Probably the biggest story,
massive,
which is weird given there was a Champions League final last night, is the future of Leo Messi.
Yes. Well, confirmed future. Mm-hmm. He's taking his talents to South Beach, as you said earlier, going to Inter Milan. Joining David Beckham's team. I'm not sure what his stake is in that team anymore because originally he bought that team for 25 mil. And I think it was evaluated a year or two ago at like 600. So definitely got his return on investment.
I think he still has a big stake. I'm not sure. I'm not great with the money in life or in following sports, but I do know that Beckham's still pretty heavily involved there. Yep. Did you see the Instagram followers? Went from 1 million to 6.5 million in like 24 hours.
More than any other team in the US currently for followers.
I think that's a caveat. I think that's NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL.
Yes.
I think there's NBA teams that have bigger followings. Okay. I think that's why that was written like that.
Okay. Anyway,
it's
a huge game for them.
Yeah.
Again, trying to do sort of what the Saudi League's doing at the moment, get a massive big name in there, get a lot more viewership, get more involved. We'll call it the soccer league because that's how it's referred to in the US.
Major League Soccer.
Yeah, hasn't really broken into what is the top four at the moment. They've kind of played that fifth fiddle for a very long time. It's just whether they can fit into that mold and take over a bit more, take a bit more viewership. This is the kind of signing you do. To get those guys that casuals like, I know who Leo Messi is. get behind it. And Miami for sports at the moment, doing a very, very good job, both in the NHL and the NBA. And
F1.
recently with Tampa Bay, etc. So they've been doing good in that space for sports. So yeah, he's huge. Probably turned down a $1.6 billion final offer from the Saudi league.
A lot of money to turn down.
Yeah, well, considering Benzema, I think is getting paid $215 million USD to go
For
over
a
there.
year, yeah, for the year.
Per year, which is almost an NFL salary cap. So it's crazy money. And then we'll talk about the golf later, and there's talk about buying teams. They've got all kinds of money at the moment. So it is what it is. So I think it's awesome for American soccer, and hopefully it really blows that league up a little bit. I think he's basically gone for do the exact same role that Ronaldo's doing over in the Saudi league.
I wonder as well how far off the US is from embracing their Major League Soccer as their fifth major sport. I'm looking at revenue here, how far behind hockey they are. It's still a ways. Where much is revenue? Here it is. So their revenue, the hockey revenue is $4.9 billion a year.
Yep.
Is that right? And then Major League Soccer is 1.5. So they're still like 3 times behind hockey in terms of revenue. But it's a big, they're only just behind Ligue 1. They're only a tad behind Serie A in terms of revenue. So it's not it's not chump change that we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's definitely a well-established league that, like we said, probably just needed something to put them over the edge, and maybe this is it. Way to get way more mainstream media, get onto ESPN a little bit more. This is the way you do it. You put arguably the GOAT in one of your teams and run him out every week.
It's the 5th soccer league in the world for revenue, which is surprising, I would think. Is that 5? EPL, Spain, Bundesliga, Italy. It's 6, sorry. Ligue 1, Major League Soccer. Fuck, the IPL is 12. Holy hell. For a tournament that runs for 14 weeks or whatever it is. My goodness gracious.
Oh, and it's only going to get bigger as well.
Anyways, definitely brings Major League Soccer into another hemisphere in terms of coverage and media hype and money at the end of the
day. And to answer your question about whether they embrace it a bit more, I think where the American national team is at the moment, it's kind of moving in the right direction. And another good World Cup tournament. Again, that helps generate getting more younger players into it, and then gets more interest in it. Tied with a guy like Messi, maybe the next 3 to 4 years could be a real boon for that league.
Girls getting dicked by Wrexham probably didn't help.
Yes.
Although, again, caveats, the way that this was getting reported was like the women's national team got smacked 12-0 by Wrexham. It was 7-on-7 and half of it was retired players. So, again, make sure you read the article. But,
Clickbait.
Indeed.
What do you got for us, Jimmy?
Just some minor news for Messi. Argentina's playing Australia in a friendly this week in Beijing.
I doubt he's playing.
Is Messi playing in that?
Yeah, he's playing. He's in China.
Really?
Yeah.
Sick. Let's
He's
go.
playing this friendly, and then he's going wherever he needs to go. Apparently, there was a supporter who rented, because they're staying at a hotel, blindly booked rooms at 4 of Beijing's luxury hotels, spent $1,400 just in the hope of crossing paths with Messi.
Really?
Yeah, so just booking rooms in random hotels.
Some fans have even taken a desperate means. That's, I don't know, booking 4 rooms.
Yeah, probably.
Why can't you just book one? Oh, different. He's trying to get different floors, maybe.
Well, I guess they don't know which hotel they were staying at.
Oh,
so
different.
Booked
So
rooms.
4 hotels. Sorry, I read that
hotels,
wrong.
yep.
Sorry, I thought he booked 4 rooms at the same hotel.
No.
Yeah. I think if you talk about soccer and in a country like China, soccer is
huge.
Yeah. So, there's probably good incentive for Messi to play in this friendly game.
Yeah.
I think they sold massive amounts of jerseys as well, if I can spell China right.
I thought your dad know how to spell that one. No,
No, there is overlords.
Hong Kong forever. Oh, shit. delete.
Yeah, we won't prepare any of their Google searches, that's for sure.
Yeah. At least when we're picking fights with Saudis and Qataris. Anyways. Other big transfer news.
Other news, yep.
So, obviously nothing's going to compare to that Messi deal. But the most expensive English transfer ever occurred this week in Jude Bellingham. It plays at Borussia, so sort of flies under the radar a little bit for more casual fans. But he's going from Borussia Dortmund to Real Madrid. Sky's the limit for this kid. I think he's already played 100 games for Borussia. So actually goes past Jack Grealish as the most expensive transfer ever, around about 115 million euros, I believe. And then Messi's World Cup teammate in Alexis McAllister, I think has been Brighton's best player, hands down, and a big part of their success this season. He goes to Liverpool. So nice of him to change his allegiance after such a good season, winning the World Cup, etc., etc., etc. To go from Brighton to just one spot above them on the table in Liverpool.
Must be getting good coin.
I'd say so, yes. Little tidbit on him. Alexis McAllister is his name. Not too many Argentinians surnamed McAllister. Third generation Argentinian. He has Scottish ancestors that packed up and left Scotland to go live in Argentina.
Makes sense.
I suppose. Fuck living in Scotland. But that is the week in soccer. A big week considering there was really only one big game in the Champions League final. But the Messi bombshell, pretty interesting.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's wrap this bitch up. Let's get through the On The Esky final round. UFC 289 has concluded, and the GOAT, the ladies' GOAT, Amanda Nunes, really tailed up her opponent in 5 rounds. Sean, did you watch this one?
I did.
On a legal streaming service.
Yes.
Yes, that was paid for, etc., etc.
Nudge.
Dana. What were your thoughts on this? I didn't watch it.
Complete domination. Arena really couldn't kind of get out of her... They talked in commentary about she needed to do more and be more active, and a lot of fighters kind of get a bit shell shocked when they go and fight Amanda Nunes. But I think it probably didn't cover the fact about how good Amanda Nunes, and she forces other fighters into doing this. And she was dominant, just paced her up the entire fight. Maybe could have pushed for a finish, but also her opponent had good power, and I think she fought a very smart fight overall, knowing she's really in no danger anywhere, could take it down when she wanted, and dominated. She got 2 judges gave her 1 10-8 round and another gave her 2. So, yeah, like I said, a complete domination in this, and she wins. I think it was probably more unfortunate that she could, this main event didn't carry the card as well. A lot of the talk was about the Charles Oliveira fight as the co-main, kind of carrying this card a little bit, and that was kind of reflected in people were doing stats on the countdown videos. His video had 400k views, hers had 40, so it was a bit disappointing. And you actually saw a little bit of thinning in the crowd as well for this fight. So
interesting.
There's a few empty seats. Largely it was still pretty full, but. Yeah, it was. You could see a couple floating around empty in the back for this fight, and which is unfortunate for her. But I think it's probably again a product that she's been so dominant. She will end as double champ as with the flyweight belt as well.
Feather.
Feather. It's new. It started with F. Featherweight belt, and that probably kills that division because I don't think anyone else is even ranked at the moment in that division that's been active or not. So. And will vacate, of course, bantamweight. So it's just not even rankings for it.
That's pretty fake, hey? They just made one because she's so dominant, so big.
Yeah, well, because she fought Cyborg at that weight, and then she fought the Aussie, which I don't remember her name at the top of my head, at that weight as well. But outside of that, there really hasn't been anyone fight
big enough.
Kind of big enough, then wants to compete at that weight division. So it's a bantamweight. So she finishes the double champ. cleaned out the division, beat everyone. You know, you maybe could have gone for the trilogy against
Pena,
but I think Megan Anderson. What's the other one? And was that that was a featherweight fight. I think she'd done everything she wanted to do. Was more interested in family life as well. She was kind of alluding to that. It was like, I've been doing this for years, and I'm happy to do something else and retire. Her wife, I think, potentially is going to come back after having the second baby, was what they were saying.
Any thoughts around a few people in the comments? I was trying to get Juliana Pena's statement as well. I think saying that she was scared to go fight her again.
Yeah, trying to hype that
out. Trying.
It was like, congrats on the win, but I think I scared you into retirement. So that was the main one. Wasn't real impressed by that fight, of course, going the distance. But like I said, I think Nunes was there to do her job, to be dominant and to leave as champion. So and she did that. Nunes
also pieced her up last time that they fought, which is interesting. No one expected that Pena victory. Jeez, that's end of 2021. I felt like that was just yesterday. So a bit of time there. So moving forward in the women's bantamweight, Pena versus next best. Is that how it's going to be? Do you think
there is a young up and coming young lady coming through, but I'm not sure off the name. None of those names are jumping out at me as her. But there's a few fun fights in there. Holly Holmes, got an option. But I think it's Pena versus a contender up and comer. I think for the vacant.
There's no news there on that, Monks.
No, I was just reading up. Obviously Pena was slated to fight.
Yeah, they were booked to fight this fight, and she pulled out.
She pulled out with broken ribs. So that's why
she was only replaced May 2.
Yeah.
So it's only so Aldana took this fight on 5 weeks' notice. I know fighters got to sell fights and talk the shit, etc. But she pulled out from broken ribs and then said Nunes is afraid of her.
Yeah,
broken ribs. No, I'm kidding.
Interesting. We'll see what happens there, and so it will be a new champion in the bantamweight division the next time they fight.
Yep. And then the co-main event was probably the only other real interesting on this card. This was a pretty light card, unfortunately. Charles Oliveira gets the win over Danish in this one. Dariush by TKO in the first round. I think he was losing the first couple of minutes, kind of getting into it, but then you just dominated. And now he's beaten everyone in the top 5 but the champion. So that looks like the next fight to make. And of course, he's on his path to try and reclaim his belt after he himself, very similar to Nunes, had a very off fight, lost the belt. He, of course, didn't get the immediate rematch that he's looking for because they made the Volkanovski fight instead. So he's definitely going to be pushing for a championship fight. It's interesting the wake up for these two boys. They look like all sorts. The Danish photo he showed, you could see his wedding ring, and you could see you could put another finger in under his wedding ring because he's he drained that much weight. So it's a massive weight for the guys to cut to get to 155, especially when they walk around like as middleweights. So. But that was a big thing. They had a barrier fall over and almost crush a fighter as well.
Who was that? Dariush walking out?
No. It was one of the earlier.
Someone early?
Yeah, leaning over the rail trying to touch hands and it gave way. But for a underwhelming pay per view, and it was probably a little bit of a shit show. But the Canadians turned out; they did a good job. And then
still 7,600 in there.
So they turned out like. But onto UFC 290 in a month's time, I think.
Yeah, there's some big cards coming up.
Yeah, big cards coming up.
Vittori Cannonier as well in a fight night.
That'll be fun.
As well as Josh Emmett and didn't he just fight that Ilya Tapuria? He just fought someone.
Yes,
I'm sure.
December.
No, don't mind me. Yeah.
Like I said, Tom Flores.
Yeah, I suppose it does.
Strickland got knocked out by Pereira last time, and then 290, Volkanovski.
A month until Volk and Yair Rodriguez. All right, boys. The best transition in the podcast world.
Do we have a soundbite for golf?
We need one.
We should get one.
Needs to be money, money, money,
Yeah.
money, which was the big talking
Is
point.
it blood money is the question.
Whoa. Okay. Hey, I picked my fight with China. Liv and PGA merge.
Well,
Bombshell earlier in the week.
Well,
Some people called it.
It's
Who
not.
could have seen this coming?
I called it. I call everything.
Well, it's not actually.
That's my Trump, by the way.
It's not actually officially Live either. It's
No, it's
they've
Saudi.
merged with the
It's where the
Saudi
money's coming from.
investment. Yeah, who backed Live? But it's been interesting that Live, because Greg Norman's been running that, has been saying that they're going to keep running. So there's, I don't think they'll live past maybe next year, but I think they'll do the remainder of this season, maybe next season. But I think if they don't have the commercial backing, they'll fall away. But it's quite interesting that the head of the Saudi investments is now the chairman of this new mega tour, which includes Europe as well. So that was a caveat there. It's I guess the three biggest tours at the moment kind of joining together. PGA, of course, being most well-known, most historic of the three of them.
By far.
But by all counts, this is a bit of a shit show. It sounds like there was 5 people involved in the whole deal. None of the players knew about it. And considering PGA is a member-run tour as well, there's been a lot of calls for Monahan to step down as well, Jay Monahan. Especially of what I said before about the blood money, like they'd used 9/11 victims, or like how these guys had funded those, and they funded terrorism and used that as their rhetoric of why you shouldn't support Live golf.
No comment.
It's not for us to comment on, but they definitely did this. They definitely did this.
Yes.
And Jimmy's brought it up there, and then there was also what was the other one? There was also the lawsuits, so the back and forth lawsuits. Reportedly, PGA was spending up to $50 million on those lawsuits and had about another $100 million in expenses. And they were being sued as well for antitrust, that they were forcing sponsors, not being allowing Live to gain sponsors, like, forcing the American market away from them. So they actually had feds looking into it, and whether they found something is another reason maybe they pushed for let's agree and drop all litigation. So it's
something stinks about it, doesn't it? Like it's happened so quickly out of the blue. It seems to.
I think PGA was running out of money. Potentially the feds found some damning kind of evidence that maybe they could even lose, and. The PIF were interested in, probably making a deal and being involved in world golf. That's their goal. They want to be involved in world golf and be invested in it. So they've made this deal and will eventually kill off team-based golf, which is Live. But maybe they'll take some aspects from Live into this new mega tour, or whatever that ends up being.
I think immediately they were saying that players on the PGA can now participate in the team format golf of Live. So I think at least in the short term they'll test out what the format will look like, and
there's
aspects from both.
There's some reports on the players that come back in might have fines with that. I think some of the whatever this deal is, they haven't really discussed like dollar figures, like how much money, but the money's coming, they're being invested. The guys that stayed loyal might get payouts from that as well.
I hope so, because
for guys like Rory McIlroy and say Tiger as well, it turned down big money. And Rory being the face of,
he was the face of it.
Of not I hate Live with golf. So it's quite interesting. It's been quite interesting to see how it kind of all put together, but it kind of under the covers, and I think they'll have new management in the not too distant future.
Did old Trumpy nail it?
Oh, 100%.
The Simpsons predicted Trump, and Trump predicted the merger. This tweet's from July 18, 2022, so about 11 months ago. All of those golfers that remain, air quotes, loyal to the very disloyal PGA in all of its different forms will pay a big price when the inevitable merger with Live comes, and you get nothing but a thank you from PGA officials who are making millions of dollars a year. And then he said, if you don't take the money now, you'll get nothing after the merger takes place and only say how smart the original signees were. Good luck to all. Congrats to Cam Smith on his incredible win.
Yeah,
so
and
I
Cam
think
Smith
he smashed it there. Old
100%. And you use Cam Smith as an example, like he made his $100 million.
Yeah.
He'll be back into the PGA and they might fine him.
There's no consequence, really.
Yeah, but if they
been allowed to play majors.
Yeah, if they fine
got his
him,
money.
exactly. If they fine him and it's like $1 million, he'll be like, sure,
Change,
I made 99. So, yeah,
I got 99 problems, and you can have one. I think if you're one of those loyal players to the PGA, especially a big name like Rory or Tiger, who said no to hundreds of millions of dollars, just for the PGA to roll over and get in bed with the alleged Satan.
Yes.
Less than...
By their own words.
Exactly. Like Live Golf was the worst thing that's ever happened to golf, according to all these PGA numbskulls. That was what we've been hearing. And then, as it always happens... Boys, I've done some growing up in the last few years because the dollar signs always win. Just follow the money, and that's what the outcome's going to be. Loyalty does not exist in sport. Money is the only thing that exists. It pains me to say it, but that's the truth. And look, we weren't critical of Cam Smith at the time.
Get your money, bro.
Get your money, bro. And in hindsight's 2020. Monday morning quarterbacking. Going back to the start of the podcast. Could India have done this better? Could they have done that better? Cam Smith has played it beautifully, got his bag, and there will be no long-term repercussions outside possibly a small fine.
Yeah.
And it's a shit show, I think. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. I think there's aspects that Liv has brought to golf which the PGA needs to take note of. Yeah, a la cricket and T20 and making it fun again and bringing in younger people, etc.
Exactly.
Outside of that, all the money and quote unquote blood money is interesting. We're three sports nuffies, probably don't need to get into world geopolitics too much, but it is a strange few years for golf and for it to come to such a quick and abrupt end, for lack of a better word, it does stink a little bit. And I'll just say it, there's definitely been under the table handshakes made throughout all this, and the money wins.
Yeah, because what I saw was Jay's right hand man. They obviously had a conversation and they reached out through WhatsApp to is it Yassar? To the leader of the guy that runs the PIF. To kind of start the negotiations, and then there was it took 7 weeks, so it wasn't like, but they were keeping it all under wraps, and no
media coverage over the last 7 weeks,
no notice of it, and and it seems like he had on the day they had, because was it the Canadian Open that was going at the time?
Yeah, Canadian. Yeah.
So they had players there, and they had a meeting with those players, and so. Some of them got pretty heated, got stuck into Monahan. I think actually McIlroy stood up for him a little bit, but it's going to be interesting, say 12 months, while they kind of unpick and work out what the future of golf looks like. Hopefully the goal is fuckloads more money, an awesome mega tour that goes around the world, and these guys can go play, and then it's exciting golf and people are interested in golf. That's, I think, the end goal they all want to get to. Is just it's been probably a bit of a shit show over the last 12 months, 18 months to get to that point.
Might be rose-coloured glasses looking at it like that, but yes, let's hope that it brings more young people into the game and it all ends up working out for the better. Yasir Al-Rumayyan is the chairman of the new tour.
Yeah, and Monahan will be the CEO of the new tour, so I don't know how that kind of works out, but they... basically married to the hip now.
I don't know. Chairman sounds like a daddy to CEO to me.
Yes, it does. That's what I think as well. So,
it is.
To me, it sounds like Live won. Well, the PIF won. What the Saudis wanted to do and get involved in worldwide sport, especially golf, is the result. And it did, fire off a shot in America a little bit. Of course, PGA kind of being a bit more American-based. Of the PIF has $620 billion of money in this investment fund, and they asked some owners of NFL teams, who's like, could you see a Saudi owner in the NFL? It's like, yeah, they'll have to go through the process, etc. But definitely, if a team comes up, they'll have money and be able to buy them. Like if that's what they want to get invested in, then yeah, sure. So they've got the coin. We've seen it with their new Saudi Soccer League. We've seen it with golf. They've got more than enough money. They own Arsenal. I think he's the chairman of Arsenal.
Newcastle.
Newcastle's one. They own a lot of things, and they've got money and they're willing to spend it.
Indeed. One thing is for certain: the next season of Full Swing is going to be lit on Netflix. And thank you to whoever came up with that for getting my wife interested in it, because we watched that first season together.
All reports was they had cameras running when all over the place when it was announced. So yeah, it'll be one of those massive bombshell moments that they've caught from all over the place.
The world is becoming more and more like the Truman Show. It is strange.
Well, I mentioned the Canadian Open. Maybe finish there.
Let's finish on the Canadian Open because this is a great story, I think. A Canadian wins the Canadian Open. Nick Taylor wins. It's his first PGA win, and to do it in his home country and become the first Canadian to win the Canadian Open since 1954. Pretty spectacular scenes. It was a playoff against Tommy Fleetwood. Fourth playoff hole. And I think the first playoff hole was a par 5, which you don't often see. And he was a mere 72 feet from the pin. And he drops this, and then chaos sort of ensues. If you haven't seen the highlights, go and check it out. We're watching it now. Yeah. It does. Hits the flag, drops in, caddy hugs, crowd goes wild. A few 10% beers getting thrown around, and the bloke, the Canadian that finished second in the field, Adam Hadwin, finished about 12th overall, but second out of the Canadian players. Comes onto the green, champagne showers, baby, and gets absolutely belted by a security guard, thinking that he's some sort of pitch invader. He's not wearing any sort of bib or anything. He's obviously finished his round a long time ago, and he's just wearing his golf clothes. And he's thought that he shouldn't have been on there, and spear tackled him. Took it pretty well. I think his wife took to Twitter saying that he's all good. It was pride that got hurt more than anything. Boom. Seki gets him. Look, watching it again, it's a clean shot, but he doesn't drop him like a sack of shit.
No.
Yeah, maybe.
He's out of his golf clothes there. He's wearing jeans.
But
he's wearing jeans. So
yes. No credentials or anything like that. I can see why he's been mistaken.
I suppose,
especially if you're Seki, you probably don't know every, the second best Canadian golfer.
Yeah, we're all googling who is Adam Hadwin.
So he's done his job, and then they've pulled him up on. He's all right. I think he's probably more in trouble maybe for a hip drop on that one,
drop
or a sling tackle.
6 weeks. Maybe. He's missing Origin, bro. He's missing Origin for sure.
Anyway.
But yeah, that was a good story there for both Nick Taylor and security guards around the world. And Canada. US Open week this week. Let's finish it up if you don't mind amongst the odds there. I did see a video of the rough and, dropping balls in there, and it was sayonara. Yes. Scotty Chef, $8 single digits to win is pretty crazy. You had Brooks at 11s into Rahm at 11.
Get on Cam Smith at 29.
McIlroy, Cantlay, Hovland 17s. Shaffelli 20, Spieth 23, Cam Smith, Morikawa, Max Homa 29s. That sort of wraps up the contenders there.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty interesting Open based on what we said before with all the news.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be heaps of media attention considering they'll cross the border and go back into the US. There'll be a lot of questions asked because a lot of the players will, of course, be coming back from all over the place to play in this too. So not all of them playing Canadian Open, of course. So, yeah.
That wraps us up for the Esky. Another week. We thought we weren't going to do one, but sort of, too much had happened. Wanted to gloat in the Australians.
Yes.
Great World Test Championship win. I think we'll be back all guns blazing next weekend. We should have a NBA winner, most likely the Denver Nuggets. We'll have some Blues Origin teams. We'll have the week in footy, and we'll have a few nights of Ashes cricket to talk about. That and plenty more.
We might have some Ashes live for us, bro.
Oh, yeah, a few live scenes. Jeez.
Maybe get day 3, session 1.
And it's not a test in India, so it should make it to halfway through the third day.
Yes, let's hope.
Depends on how wet it is.
We'll definitely make it through then. Definitely make it through. Heat wave. It's a heat wave. Oh, it's 25 degrees again. That'll do us from us dribblers. Thank you to anyone that's listened. Thank you to Adam Wegner in the chat. And to those that are listening through the week, we'll catch you next week. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.